so valuable with these wide open spaces that are currently being occupied. So if any team tries to make an ill-advised rotation, they're going to be able to punish them in doing so. As we're about to see that next circle pop very shortly, as we're moving into the 14-minute mark of the game, and things are just going to keep accelerating. The press is going to keep ramping up. Most of these teams are occupying Central, so I imagine there'll only be 1 or 2 squads that may need to move, depending how hard of a shift this next phase will be. Zeus lining up that vehicle in the distance, but no one's around that area to even use it, so it's pretty much useless information for him right now. But it could provide a backup car if they need to, said they go over and find an extra vehicle. There's that next phase being popped, like we said. Only Unnamed and Ace having to make the movement.
Dilly from Polaris Esports is saying, Pro DJ, just go ahead and die. Let me be the solo player champion. I have got this in the bag. Unnamed, though, moving in across the frozen lake near Garoka. They're going to be trying to find a position, and I would be surprised if they don't continue to play edge here. It's going to be the play based off of these late rotations and their previous positioning in phases 1 and 2. They continue on nonetheless, probably going over towards this northwestern part of the circle where Revenants have at least been holding on to. They're already looking in there. You can see the directional arrows from team number 13. That is the Revenants looking up, being diligent to make sure that they catch the audible cues and maybe even some damage on this car that is packed like sardines with the members of Unnamed.
They're playing edge as well for the time being. They heard a few gunshots that they weren't willing to take on. They're even still receiving some from Revenants, who are taking the pop shots from the southeast, keeping them on this edge right now, forcing them out of the newly formed play zone to wrap around. But now they're heading into the path of Ignite Gold, who, if they hear these audio cues, may also want to get on this action, spray a few shots, and play Gatekeeper. Smartly enough, Unnamed are finding an entry point to the southwest of the circle to come in between Mavatra and Dino Park. And they should be able to find some real estate in this next circle because there's still plenty of space to play with.
HQA lining up next to the members of Granja del Gaming, or G6, Alashi, Hamon, Yayo, and Yakup. Going to be holding on here 4 strong inside of the compound, but the kill feed continues to erupt. There's a bit of a commotion happening near the centralized area of phase number 3. It's none other than Wildcard once again trying to land some shots, and they sure enough got a knock onto Psycho, but because of this man-made compound that Shoot to Win has found themselves in, they had the opportunity to pick up the res. Psycho will be up and on his feet, and he's going to be trying to get those meds off because, hey, we're almost at the critical point of these Vikendi matches. Phase number 4 is where we will likely see a lot of teams pushed into the meat grinder to try to work their way out.
You can see in the distance over there, still that Shoot to Win squad who are occupying that territory. So Wildcard just going to have to wait and hope that they're forced over into the location, or the shift moves further west and forces their reposition. But they're also occupied with Blinded by Wind right now, who are taking pop shots at the same building and applying pressure to Shoot to Win. So it doesn't matter which angle you run from, you may end up running into the crossfire of 2 squads.
You know, it's one of the things, Trid, when Vikendi first came out, everyone was talking about there are so many compounds on this map, and while you're seeing how that sort of affects competitive play right now for these teams, everyone is able to at least try to find a compound. Getting there is the hard part, but once you're there, you're likely going to be safe for a good portion of this early to mid game, unless you poke your head out like the members of Shoot to Win continue to do against that deadly squad of Wildcard Gaming. Cobra, this newcomer to the Wildcard squad, is trying to put out some damage, trying to be the impact player that they brought in here on the final day of play. But the blue zone continues to work its way in. We're almost at that boiling point here on the snow map where things are about to get a little bit exciting.
So we wait for that next phase to pop. Polaris Esports managed to sneak their way in through that northeast area, get themselves into a suitable position. Shots still being traded by Shoot to Win over in the direction of Wildcard Gaming. You've got Unnamed, who are getting into a vehicle ready for this next rotation. I think they want to try and get a favorable position on a new circle. But actually, they're just moving their vehicle into a position they can better protect it. They are fairly central right now, unaffected by this circle shift. It's Pittsburgh Knights making the longest rotation into this newly formed circle. Ignite Gold still have to move in, and as expected, because they are playing edge in their diminished state, Polaris Esports will wait until the last possible moment to sneak their way in.
I'm more curious as to how the Pittsburgh Knights are going to make this rotation. They have to assume that this southern edge near the Tovar city is going to be jam-packed with teams. And if they do assume that, well, they're going to be exactly right, rolling in a 2-vehicle convoy, trying to find a place to call home as they roll past HQA's compound. Shots already coming out, a lot of damage being applied. The UAZ that 7 and Jagger are inside of starts to smoke. A few more shots that connect onto that vehicle will be exploding and taking them out of the game as they cross the paths of another team. Lights Out will be spotting that Pittsburgh Knights rotation, and the car flips immediately. Jagger and Seven have to pop out. The rotation is stopped in its tracks just outside of one of the deadlier squads here in this lobby tonight.
Taking a quick medical break. Leave of absence from the active gameplay just to get themselves back into it. Blind Eye Win have spotted something and they're taking a few shots. I believe it might be ProDoce Esports trying to sneak their way in. Lights Out, we talked about them earlier, they fanned out around this compound. There's lots of angles to watch, lots of angles to defend. They should be able to do that quite comfortably, assuming that Pittsburgh Knights can't turn themselves from a very widespread into a very singular one and push in this singular point or a singular building and 4v1 collapse onto Seeger. That becomes very difficult. You can still already see Memo moving over to reinforce that side of the compound, which means outside of 9K will also have to change his position in the building, potentially to look out from the other direction. He's actually on top of the building, hiding behind this little steeple. Should be able to get some good cover from there, but he's looking over in the direction of Pittsburgh Knights to provide reinforcements. I'm now concerned about that western side, or the northwestern side that Ignite Gold can come into if they need to push in on the next phase, while they're still engaging with Pittsburgh Knights.
Outsider's position is one that could absolutely exploit the position of the Pittsburgh Knights, but again, you have to keep in mind that
So
that little bit of a chimney is about 30 degrees of line of sight blocked, and the rest, well, he's completely vulnerable, and those pasty white legs sure do stick out from a distance. But the Pittsburgh Knights, they don't want to engage off of this. They see 60 players alive still in the lobby. Now is not the time because they don't gain anything from taking out the members of Lights Out in this compound unless the circle continues to shift over. Speaking of shifts, we're about to see phase number 5 pop here in a matter of about 10 seconds. So these teams, if they haven't already, are now starting to prep for the oncoming transition that they could have to make. And sure enough, a lot of teams are going to be making those rotations down here, centered around just south of Villa and Tovar. Wildcard going to be inside of the circle, Misfits as well. The North, though, is completely open. Someone can claim themselves as the king of the North here in phase number 5. But who is it going to be? Because Method, VN1, Polar Ace, Silent Killers, well, they're already making the move in. This is the smart play, and you like to see it. Quick rotations, no hesitation whatsoever. And, well, they're going to be rewarded for that, moving into the dead center spot.
Lights Out have made that early transition as well, so Pittsburgh Knights have been relieved from pressure. Unnamed taking a lot of fire already. I believe that's from HQA, potentially. As they're taking the engagement, Yefe being knocked down for one so far. HQA need to go into recovery mode, keep themselves back in this game, as Jacob's also going to be knocked down by Bill. So multiple squads are getting involved in this fight, as Yefe will be flushed out by Pyra from the Misfits. So there's 3 squads taking a fight all against each other right now, as Ethan going to be flushed out by Xenoff. And Jakob going down to Bill and Yamon as well. It's not looking good for G6. Pittsburgh Knights are taking that engagement with them, as Jagger will get the knock onto Yair, sprays behind him to get the flush onto Yamon. We'll have to just settle for the 2 knocks for now, but they're in position to be able to capitalize.
7 did go down. They will have to recover off of that before the blue zone is on their backs and starts to at least force their pressure, force their hand even further. That's Hamon getting dropped down and out of the game. But Lights Out are finding the members of G6 as well. G6 just getting absolutely destroyed by 2 separate teams here on the map. At HQA, essentially stuck in their tracks as well, holding on to at least a safe position as Michael tries to roll up to his other teammates still alive. Quang, who is inside of that southwestern border. But other teams, Silent Killers, they're trying to move in. They will be colliding with the members of the Pittsburgh Knights right now, and Sin spots out Wi-Fi with a nice AKM spray. We'll be taking him down, but there are 3 other members to have to worry about. Monarch, 7, and Jagger are trying to make that rotation in. They have left Wi-Fi. He's out of the game. No need to worry about that anymore, and here comes the rotation.
Again, those vehicles and start moving around, using for cover because they spotted out some more mobile teams. 7 going to be dropped down by Bill. And outside 9K, also taking an engagement with 5. But Bill will get that flush onto 7, leaving only 2 members of Pittsburgh Knights alive. Monarch and Jagger having to carry the Pittsburgh Knights flag to victory. At least spur up the standings as well as they can, but Monarch has to start serpentining, taking some fire, a little bit too much. Sub 20% HP will take cover to go for the recovery. Jagger going to cover him himself, though, by getting the knock onto Raven and force Unnamed to close ranks to go for the recovery.
Phase number 5 sets up the action when phase number 6 pops here. In about 15 seconds, well, it's going to explode. Miski trying to pick up his teammate, able to do so, trying to recover off of this. Smoke's going out, the concealment to be had. Raven not going to be able to make his way out of there as he will be spotted out by the members of Lights Out, Memo to be exact. But Pittsburgh Knights have had the opportunity to now move into this next phase. The circle continues to shrink, and well, quickly as they came, they will be exiting out of this game as well. Monarch found by the members of the Silent Killers who made that extremely fast rotation in the previous phase. But now Lights Out, they've got to move in as well, being hyper diligent to spot out any stragglers in the blue zone. They will be finding one, but now they have to push in themselves.
And a new circle has popped in the center, right on top of Misfits, able to channel somewhat a little bit of that magic. There were silent killers, those Perksats will go knocked down. And looking to get him behind some cover so he can go for the recovery, but Pyro going to be knocked down as well. Not looking good for Misfits as silent killers are dealing a lot of damage. It's all relying on the hopes of Xenoff to come in here with the spray. Felix hiding behind the door, but there's 3 members of silent killers to deal with this quite handily. Kyang also going to get flushed out of the game while this is happening as well. They only have to get Miraz back in the game, and then we'll have a full-man squad. I think Misfits were actually just knocked out of that engagement, unfortunately. They're going to be removed from the lobby nice and early.
Yeah, they certainly were. The silent killers found that compound early on, and they saw the center position. Misfits loving the center spots. They tried to crash in. Unable to do so, will be wiped out of the game. Silent killers need to be diligent, though, to recover off of that engagement immediately. They're in the only compound inside of phase number 6. The rest is going to be hilly terrain with a few trees and a few rocks and a little bit of defilade to provide you with that much-needed cover, especially with 11 teams, 38 players still remaining, just shy of that 25-minute mark of game number 1 of the final day of the semifinals for the Club Open. Lights out Memo going to be spotting out the members of the Revenants, not able to put out the significant amount of damage that he needed to get, and he will be dropped down, bleeding out on the ground, trying to crawl over to Outsider 9K as he tries to pop smokes as well. Lucifer bleeding out near the vehicle. This is going to be extremely tough for the members of Lights Out to recover off of. Just Outsider on his feet.
Look at the recovery. The grenades are a bit of a Hail Mary onto Revenants to exert some pressure. Vigilante just decides to pop round to the side. He'll find Lucifer, but he's going to be knocked down by Peralta, who had the better angle on the fight altogether. Silent Killers maintaining their dominant control of the center as they're trying to deflect an attack coming in from Method. And they've done just that, as they're going to flush him out altogether, taking that squad entirely off the map. 10 remaining as they're moving into this final circle. You've got Wildcard still out on the outside, as well as Shoot to Win. Polar Race Esports still snaking their way into victory, but they're going to be gate-kept by VN1, sorry. They're going to have another grenade thrown over the top, still applying that pressure onto Revenant, but unable to find significant enough to get any further knocks or flushes.
Revenants have to move about 5 meters down to the southeast to get inside of the circle, but Lights Out are making it incredibly difficult for them to do so. Taking knock after knock after knock, they've been able to recover with 3 alive, but Vigilante going to be sprayed down. Outsider 9K knows where there's smoke, there is likely going to be a player trying to crawl through it. Tanker Espinoza and Peralta will be following suit, following up Vigilante, trying to get to the rock. But the blue zone now has met the edge of the circle. It's going to be a hardship down to the southeast, and both of these squads have to move. And will both have to move through the path of the silent killers. Espinoza's feet from the backside of the tree will be spotted out and sprayed down with the barrel 7.62, and that's ultimately going to be the knock from a distance. Ran from VN1 with the M24.
But he needs to be more concerned with Polar Race Esports. They stood right on top of them right now. Next circle will collapse towards Wildcard Gaming, so that central position hold by Silent Killers has to be vacated and moved into. Now, Unnamed are in a good position. They can snake around, play near the blue to get themselves into the new area. They're too busy dealing with the squads that are outside the current play zone, trying to sneak their way in. Lights Out, I believe, have just been completely wiped off the map by that final kill coming in. So that's one less squad to worry about as we move into the top 5.
Very reminiscent of yesterday's games when Wildcard ended up getting those final few circles of the game, and every other team in the lobby had to fight against each other. Sit back, let them rip through each other's squads, and then you just mop up what's left, claim that victory, and that's what Wildcard is going to be trying to do here from this high ground position. But Unnamed, the M416 shot's going to be landing onto the members of Silent Killers from a distance across the road. 5 teams remaining, 19 players alive. And this road is going to be a bit of a no man's land. Teams likely are going to have to cross it. VN1 is going to be making that trek right now, but Zeus has spotted them out with the AKM. Single tap shots going out, finding their connections, trying to thread this needle to wipe out that 4-man squad that is pushing from the north to the south.
On the current path, they're going to run straight into the crossfire of Revenants, and that's what they're more concerned about here. They're looking towards that direction. They are obviously conscious of the fire coming in, but here comes the fast crash in from Unnamed. They're going to play right up against the rocks and deny that line of sight that Wildcard are able to take. But unfortunately for them as well, they're going to be able to take a more central position. So in the next phase, when the circle inevitably moves, they will hold all the power.
So this is a misstep by Wildcard right here, and I think that if they don't win this game, they're going to look back at this moment in particular and be able to pin it on that. They should have taken center circle or even the northern edge, given that there were no other teams contesting for phase number 7, but they've given away that position entirely. Unnamed now holds the central ground, and if it continues to shrink on that area, they're going to be in the best position to survive. as Wildcard continues to put out the damage. Rain with the G36C finds the Silent Killers from a distance again. And Silent Killers, Trid, they still have to make that trek from north to south. Again, a few meters, but those few meters are going to be extremely deadly as Unnamed now starts to look back up towards the north and pick out some kills for their own.
Some of them are tanking blue right now as well as they're trying to get into that new area. Part of Wildcard's territory is being removed as well. So they are going to have to press forward and lose that high ground advantage that some of them possess purely because of the new geometry caused by this next circle. Rain is leaning over to the side, keeping an eye on this angle that Bill is going to challenge very briefly, but then decides it's not worth it. Just to suppress Rain and not allow him to go in. Smokes are going to be popped here. Pop some utility so that we can go for a safer rotation, deny Unnamed the line of sight. The only team that really Unnamed needs to be worried about right now is Silent Killers, who are hiding out in that smoke. Because Wildcard will make the rotation. Oh, hang on a minute. Cobra finding the double knock with that nade onto Unnamed. Make him close ranks. Wildcard have to go aggressive here and try and take more territory away. Otherwise, they'll just be denied as soon as the recovery comes in.
And that's the play that they need to make. You can already see one of the members of Wildcard dipping back into the blue zone. Interesting choice to make. Maybe just trying to make sure that no one is coming around the flank side, but he will be almost dropping down to the blue zone there. Rain needs to be careful, but the entirety of Wildcard also has to be diligent here to take out Unnamed. Unnamed has a huge bit of cover to work off of, but so does Wildcard. All they need to worry about is the third team still alive, the Silent Killers off to the northwest, and will ultimately that has to fall onto the hands of Unnamed. They are pinched in between two different squads, a deadly spot to be in, and now Mitz makes that last-ditch effort. He's going to be at least trying to send it in the vehicle, not able to do so, quickly caught out and taken out of the game.
Fantastic play by Sin there to rack up another kill. 6 to his name so far this map. He's looking for more. It's a 4v4 showdown. Unnamed versus Wildcard for the first map win of today. And that next circle is going to be popping very shortly. May dictate where it goes. It's actually going to go into our near ultimate circle because this is phase 8 currently. This is one of the longer Vikendi maps we've actually seen in the tournament so far, Esquire.
Pretty funny. If you look at this overhead view, we see the final circle where it's going to be. In the center of that circle where the ultimate collapse comes in is wide out in the open. These teams are going to have to engage in a gunfight, and it's going to come down to who is more mechanically skilled and who's got the better team synergy to work around one of the more difficult areas of Vikendi that we've seen implicated in phase number 9. Here it is, though. Wildcard.
Look at the angle that's happening here. 3 members of Unnamed stacked over to the side. They're going to be potentially using it to wrap around that edge of the rock. Miski's just there to apply pressure and stop an aggression coming in. Now, Sin's going to reinforce him, so they have a 2-2 split potentially, depending on where they have to go. The vision obscuring is coming out via the smoke, and it's going to stop them from being aggressed upon when they move up nice and early. They do have a vehicle that's potentially going to be used for cover, but they will have to move away from it. And they're going to move up into this newly formed circle as the blue is at their backs and will force their hands. Cobra will have to depart that high ground as well, which would have been advantageous as long as Unnamed can drag this out as long as possible.
About 15 seconds until the blue zone starts to shrink its way in for that collapse. Teams are getting those boosts off. Unnamed is at full HP. Wildcard not looking so hot in that regard. Zeus and Ranger will be the first to go out if they take blue zone damage or any damage from their opponents just on the northern side of this hill. Circle starts to shrink its way in, and here are the movements. Wildcard not going to be going out to the blue zone here. They are at least trying to employ this skill that they've displayed throughout the tournament, but Bill going to be spotted out, able to get the first knock onto Zeus with the micro Uzi. Now Sin onto Ranger, 2 members of Wildcard down, and that's going to be the third, Cobra trading out Miski, but he immediately goes down thereafter, and that's going to be a huge win coming out for the likes of Unnamed. A big victory for them, 16 kills to their name. But Wildcard coming in second as well. 10 kills to their name, and then to the Silent Killers, able to at least push their way in to third position. One of the more action-packed games on Vikendi that we have seen, a sort of a test of strategy for those two squads in their final moments of that game, but an exciting one nonetheless.
What a fantastic play by Sin as well, racking up 8 kills to his name, and of course making sure that the entirety of the squad was alive at the end there as well. Unnamed getting the best possible outcome they could do from that map, and they're going to go ahead and storm up the standings, and we'll give you an update on that when we can. But that's Vikendi, map number 1. We got 3 more to go, so don't go anywhere as we conclude our semi-finals.
Hello and welcome back to the PUBG Mobile Club Open Semifinals for North America, the final day of play for these teams here in the semifinal rounds. Well, Trid, we just saw game number 1 played out. Vikendi will be no more here in this stage of the tournament, and Unnamed claimed the final victory that could be claimed by any team here on the snow map. Huge map, though, for them.
Absolutely, and that just came down to a full, I think that's the first time we've actually seen a full 4v4 engagement to decide the first place finish, especially on Vikendi, because we don't usually see a complete squad make it to the end. Unnamed able to come out on that. They allowed Pittsburgh Knights, wasn't it? No, it was Wildcard. Wildcard to aggress onto them, and they were just able to play around it. They even used that big rock terrain that they were able to claim earlier on into the phase when they crashed into the center circle and took that control away from Wildcard Gaming. And you alluded to it during the caster, Squire. It became a pivotal moment of that final fight, and if they had made that transition earlier, they would have been able to take that away and deny that from Unnamed and potentially use it themselves.
Well, we got some highlights, so take a look at these as well to kind of break down what happened in that game. And keep a particularly close eye on the final highlight of this package. You can see a nasty jump coming out from one of the members of Unnamed to secure that victory. It was a pretty big moment for them, but big moments all throughout this game, and this kind of sets the landscape for that final engagement. And it was pretty wild. A lot of no man's land in between these two teams, but you're going to see that member of Unnamed jump off that rock here in just a few seconds.
Going wide, and then Bill going to go over the rock, up and over to protect Misky with the spray down, and a couple of members of Wildcard left.
Boom!
Goes for the 180 pivot and lands it perfectly against him. Takes him out. Let's check in on our standings after that first map, because that's all that matters here, getting into that top 16. And POLARIZED Esports, they started off with about 71 points today. They're not making the progress they need to survive, and they're getting into that danger territory of just simply not making it. Let's go up into our 9 to 16 range, have a look what's going on over there.
Well, a few teams are pretty close. Tempo Storm is at least having that gap closed on them. They will not be playing here tonight, so keeping their eyes on at least Granja Del Gaming or G6 in game, Silent Killers as well as BN1. Let's transition over to the top 8 of these leaderboards. Continue to see the huge strides by some of our top teams here in this lobby. Wildcard in 3rd position, 307 points. They continue to close that gap between them and Space Station Gaming. All on the line for them will be Pride here today.
We've already closed it down to, I believe that's 18-point difference between them and the next place above them in 2nd place. They've got 3 more maps to play. I don't see a team like that not meeting the adequate points to take over 1st place. The only people they will lose that to is other people competing today if they can potentially rack up an even higher tally. I was looking down at that 9 to 16th place though, Esquire. Method, it's not looking, no, I think it was Method. One of the teams, I believe it was Tempo Storm actually, not looking in a good spot. They're currently in 13th, 21 points. Divide 16th place and that position there. Yeah, 21 points there. VN1, if they can get those 21 points and Silent Killers and G6 move up at a similar pace, you could see Tempo Storm getting knocked down into 17th potentially, and that's when we really start to see some problems for an organization we expect a lot out of.
Yeah, exactly. 5 points for one team, 8 points for the other. Will be pushing Tempo Storm down into that 15th or 16th position. And well, there's going to be 2 games after that to be played out, so definitely a sweaty watch party happening over at the Tempo Storm house tonight. But we've got game 2. We're switching it over to Miramar. The desert is underway, and our plane is in the air.
Having a look at that circle, well not the circle, sorry, the playoff. It's leaning over to the northern side and going from west to east. A lot of teams will be able to get most of the loot locations off of this quite easily, so the circle may say, or the flight path may say north, but there's plenty of space for these teams to be able to hit down on the locations they typically travel to, as the south isn't as occupied as some areas in the north, and especially around that middle area are.
I'm going to keep an eye on that Los Leones area. San Martin has been at least a little bit crowded with 2 teams, sometimes 3 teams in the previous games of this tournament. But again, we see Method hopping out of that plane very early on. They're one of the squads that likes to ride on this western wall, which presents some, I guess, unique issues for its own location. Other teams will be going that direction as well. VN1 has popped out almost directly on top of the members of Method, and surely you will see them spread off from each other's paths slightly, because there's no reason to contest those areas here in the final day of gameplay, where it's a point race, especially for both of those 2 squads in the southwestern region of the map.
Misfits and Latinos Unidos all moving towards the same area. Misfits have actually made landfall already. Latinos Unidos are still traveling, but they're not getting a lot of distance under their parachutes. They may be landing very close to where Misfits are. Have a look at that first circle, popping over to the east. Still a lot of territory to play with. But teams like Ignite Gold, who are going up to La Cobreria, need to go ahead and move themselves further down. They've got the furthest transition so far, and it might force G6 and Shoot to Win, potentially Lights Out as well, to just hasten the pace about when they move into this new area. Shockingly enough, though, Esquire, no one currently has dropped on Los Leones.
No, not yet. A wide open city is what Los Leones is going to be for the time being. You might see teams sort of filter their way in as the game continues on, but wild card here. This is not the way you want to start when you're trying to chase down Space Station Gaming on the leaderboards, but all things considered, it's not too sweaty of a position. Rain is going to be back behind this bus, trying to hide out from Pro DJ, who's got a micro Uzi to his name and not much else. Again, both of these teams essentially just landed here. And Rain is going to have to make the decision. Do I try to hop into the vehicle, or do I just sit here and let them waste their ammo?
Rain's got himself, I believe that's a barrel shotgun, but he's not going to be able to go ahead and do much with it.
Ooh.
But he got 2 shots to his
it's
name
going to
as well.
explode.
He's going to try and get the shots off, but he hasn't got the range for that one. Vehicle will explode. Rain's smart enough to move away from that one. He's going to detonate himself so he can get back and cover fast enough. See the flank coming in from Pro DJ, sitting on that micro Uzi, but he might have picked up some more loot from that house as well. You can see Zeus over at the gas station scrambling to find some resources to the support, and now Illusion's popping over that hill, but here comes the flank from Pro DJ.
Wrapping around micro Uzi, reloaded, prepped, and ready to shoot 25 rounds of 9mm directly into the chest of Rain, should he be able to find it. And again, Rain does not have a helmet on. He's got to be extra careful here to avoid these shots, or else end up as a one-tap dirt nap. And it's going to be the push coming out now. Both Dilly and Pro DJ around both sides of this bus. And the Overwatch fire actually coming in from Illusions as well, but ultimately they will get the knock onto Rain. And to flush them out, well, they're going to be taking damage as well. Zeus with the AKM able to find a trade back onto Pro DJ. But thankfully, at least for the members of Polar Ace, they're going to be able to get the res as Rain starts to crawl over towards Zeus. And with this push, it's going to, no, not enough time. Rain is certainly going to be flushed out of the game here by Pro DJ's micro Uzi, but now they're in a vulnerable position of their own. Illusions come in with another knock with the M416 this time, and he's going to be pushing up. He knows that Dilly is behind there, and not much armor to his name. It gets turned right back around onto Wildcard, potentially going to be losing out on their second member here.
Where are the rest of the team? Why are they by themselves? Why Polar Ace Esports right here?
They had more than enough time, Trid, to come in and back their other teammates up.
They're still in the distance.
You see them off on the horizon. Shakes and his teammate trying to work their way in, but it's a second too late. Rather, a few minutes too late. Let's just say that. And it's not going to help them whatsoever. Wildcard loses one in the process, but they trade out 2 of the members of Polar Ace Esports.
What should have been an in-and-out quick kill on a caught-off-guard enemy turned into an absolute disaster of a 2-for-1 trade in favor of Wildcard Gaming. Polar Ace Esports, JVB and Shakes, what are you doing, lads? You need to go over and support your team like that. As soon as the shots were coming in from the Overwatch positions of the team of Wildcard, you needed to be making that call and going, right, we'll have to take what we've got now and head over to try and fight them. You waited way too long on your loot paths.
Definitely a misplay from the members of Polar Ace Esports, but Wildcard comes up on top of it. They've been able to get the res onto Zeus, and we'll have 3 alive. Ranger, though, goes right back down. So another member of Wildcard, they're losing out on the battle of attrition versus the other 15 teams still remaining here in the lobby. And JBP, they're not going to be backing off of this. Polar Ace Esports wants some revenge here in game number 2 of the final day of the semifinals, and the shots continue to come out. Illusions trying to push back the members of Polar Ace Esports. JBP and Shakes going to be held at bay, at least for the time being.
I believe Ranger felt the hurt a little bit, dropping down to sub 10% HP, it looks like. Go for the meds instead, but JBP and Shakes have the high ground. They're going to throw a few more grenades and just falling a little bit short for now. Zeus hasn't got the resources, just bandages to heal up. That's going on now. Healing over time is going to be in effect. Shakes just being suppressed in his current position. You can see Illusions going around for a wider angle. Try and punish some of the peeking that Shakes is doing right now. Same with JBP.
It's interesting here. Polar Ace Esports is a team that needs the points, and they're not going to be getting those from kills. Ranger with the Scar finds another connection onto Shakes. Now just JBP, a solo player left on his feet, and he's being now pushed up upon by Illusion. Find the hay bale. He's going to be catching him out. The third-person perspective comes in clutch. JBP going to get the flush as well, leaving 2 members of Wildcard coming in very hot to try to flush out JBP. Should they be able to find him? And sure enough, they do. Around the right-hand corner, it's going to be Ranger flushing out Shakes, but JBP turns on to Zeus, going to be able to get the headshot with the M416. He's able to find the other member of Wildcard, and out they go. In 16th position, Trid, a much needed pickup of points, at least for the members of Polar Ace Esports. But now, how do they advance from this? Because 2 points is not going to be enough.
It's actually It's actually kind of disastrous, if I'm honest with you, Squire.
Oh, less disastrous than going out in the 16th,
No,
I guess.
it is. But if you look at the points that need to be accrued by this roster in particular, yeah, sure, you just picked up a squad wipe on wildcard. They're not a team that needed the points. They're relatively safe. You've put yourself in a situation now where you've got a solo player. You're not Dilly, as we've already touted his skills of snaking it in. You've now got to try and get yourself higher on the placements to get a sizable amount, because you're probably not going to get any more kills. You may be gifted 1 or 2 if you can third party a fight and clean up. Your placement prospects aren't too high. You're going to have such a passive game this time. Try and get into top 5 to get any kind of value out of this one. Yes, well played to actually win that around and turn it around for Polaris Esports, but, and all things said, they should have completely disengaged from that and just gone away and played for placement. This is a team that shouldn't be taking these fights this early on, because they need placement points, not kill points, to stay in this competition.
Yeah, exactly what I was talking about before the 2 members of that squad actually pushed into wildcard. So unfortunate, yes, but once they committed, they came out victorious, and they will be able to continue on here with 15 teams remaining, 57 players alive, as those rotations continue to come in towards phase number 1. We haven't really talked about much of the map because that wildcard engagement was so hot and so impactful, at least for Polaris Esports, to kick off the game. But Shoot to Win will be making their entryway into a better spot inside of this circle from the northern camp, where they ended up looting for the beginning minutes of this game. Psycho and the rest of the crew, all 4 in vehicles, will be an easy rotation for them. The north not too crowded just yet. But we have seen a lot of teams move in towards that La Bandita area. And if you recall, the last time we saw Miramar played out on Friday, to be exact, one of the groups here in this lobby today actually played on that specific map of Miramar, and they got an identical circle to what we're looking at right now. So you might see a few strategies maybe shift if they didn't work out for those teams in day number 1 of week number 2 of the semifinals, or you might see them do exactly what they did last time if they found success.
Finally, all those teams are getting to get into that newly formed circle, and while we were dealing with that engagement, Los Leones has now become a hotbed of multiple squads looking to find loot and shelter as the game will progress. And as the circle does crash on, we'll see, well, phase number 3 will pop and we'll transition into, phase number 2 will pop into, and then hopefully that will force the hands of further more. But there's still a lot of space to play with in this newly formed phase. Silent Killers had a surprisingly good game for themselves. They're not a team we usually put up there, but they managed to get points on the board by taking out the likes of Misfit on that Vikendi map. They may be looking for a similar bounty to claim, and Method, they're not exactly the team on having the best of games right now, but if you add that name, notch it into your barrel, you may be looking to sit it pretty for the rest of the match.
Shift does come in, phase number 2 in full effect, and it centers up on the Minas Generales area, where the members of Lights Out, as well as Blinded by Win, have taken up shelter early on in those phase number 1 rotations. Expect a great migration, though, to happen from a cluster of teams down towards the southwest of this phase number 2. You can see so many different squads. That's about half of our lobby trying to make their entryway in from the southwestern corner. Well, they're going to be facing off against some resistance. Misfits pushing up through the northern side of Los Leones into the hillsides, while the Silent Killers continue to look on, spotting out Method, leaving that building where they had been looking at them from the hillside. But look at this, Mraz in the bush. He has no cover to hide behind should any of these vehicles turn his direction, so he's just going to be an information seeker for his squad right now. No shots until they've likely departed past his location.
Just keep your head down. Don't even move. Don't even twitch. They'll pounce on you so quick you'll have no reaction. Perksas getting knocked by Felix. This is the Silent Killers taking the fight against Misfits again and getting the flush on the Perksas to kick things off. Yet again, Silent Killers are playing spoiler to Misfits' dreams of that first place position by dealing casualties early on into this next map.
This is tough. This sort of displays the intricacies of this Miramar map, the difficulties that team have trying to maneuver their vehicles across any of the terrain that does not have a road attached to it. And Will, Uneven going to be knocked down, will be bleeding out. No members of Misfits in sight to provide him with that support. And they'll be going down, but the members of Silent Killers are just going to be spotting out another rotation. BN1 going to be coming close by around this area of the map, but they have no care in the world. They want that Misfits squad to be going down and out.
You see the other 2 members of Misfits, Xenoth and Pyra, trying to get there on the 2-2 split. They are in range to potentially help here and crash in this. SK are taking their time with the flushes coming in. They've been distracted by VN as well. Misfits could potentially recover of this. Is Pyra and his teammate Xenoth played this correctly. They're pushing up to try and get in a position to help Uneven. We need to be more concerned about what's being set up by SK here. The vehicles will come in, wrap around, be able to set up some kind of cover, but it's Chris with the sight lines, forcing them to wrap further around to go for the res. But now that team has the information. They've already flushed one. They know they've just seen two more, so the entire squad is behind that concrete well. They know it's a 4v3 engagement, so they should be able to adapt around this. If they move fast, they can catch Uneven while he's still weak.
They've already missed that opportunity, I fear, for the members of Silent Killers. Knowing this, though, they have pushed off of that aggression that they were just recently showing the last 5 seconds or so. But here's the thing. Pyra is already going for that high ground position. You can utilize the stairwells to get up on top, but if they do so, they will be presenting themselves to the lines of sight of Felix up there on the hillside. That elevated position not going to be enough here as Uneven gets spotted out. Once again, Raz, the M416, applying a significant amount of damage onto a player that's already been knocked once here in this engagement.
Here comes the aggression. Nitz pushing forward alongside his teammate to try and get a better angle on this one. Miraz going to do more of the same. They're pincering Misfits as best they can. Going to spray for the smoke, but the feet have been shown there. He saw Zenith, able to get a few bullets into him as they move up the stairs and try and get their feet off the ground out of smoke. But here comes the push from Miraz. Deals with one. He's going to get the second flush as well. That's 2 members down. It's only Uneven lasting, but they're going to go for the flushes instead. So even if Uneven gets out, which he will not, another squad wipe. Silent Killers dealing with Misfits back to back on our first 2 maps of the evening.
Again, not a huge impact for the Misfits, but you have to kind of fear for them now going into the regional finals here in a few weeks. They have certainly qualified based off the massive amount of points they accumulated in their first few days of play here in the semifinals. But again, what kind of mindset does this put your team in? Are you going to be comfortable? Are you going to be confident rolling into the 16-team lobby, the best 16 teams that we whittled down from 32 throughout the course of the month? Other teams, though, still alive. Method trying to make that entry point into the southern side of the circle, weaving in between 2 of the members of VN1. Split off, no shots coming out just yet, because VN1 was being pinned down by the likes of Blinded by Win off to the east, but Clay's vehicle continues to take damage as they safely now find shelter inside of Minas Generales, and that third circle pop that's going up towards the northwest. A further northern shift that's been the theme of these circles here in game number 2.
Hacienda del Patron not going to... It's going to be very open, in fact. You've only got Ignite Gold over in that area. Most of the territory is going to be occupying in that southeast portion of that newly formed phase. And Ignite Gold, they can just kick their feet up, spread out as much as they want, starfish in the bed, if you will. They should be quite fine for now until teams move into Occupy. We're looking at buildings available. There's a nice compound or a couple of buildings on the corner for Ignite Gold. They're probably going to crash into that one just to the east of San Martin and hold that down because it won't be occupied. They kind of got a rough idea of what's going on here. The engagements are happening right now as Wood's taking a few shots over at the vehicles of Latinos Unidos. They're now scattering across the hills and separating out.
Given this circle that we're looking at here in phase number 3, I wouldn't be surprised if you see some of the longest range kills and the entirety of this tournament coming out in this game in particular. Lights Out, lighten up the kill feed. They found JBP, the remaining member of that Polar Ace Esports squad. And yes, out they go. 14th position, not what they were hoping for, especially after that disastrous start. Mixing it up with the members of Wildcard, but Blinded by Win are trying to hold on here to the at least the southern bit of the Minas Generales area that is inside of this zone. They've got vehicles to work with, just trying to make sure that they are safe. And Will Parkham might be to... No, he's just going to reposition that vehicle. Make sure that it's not in line of sight of any enemies that are already putting out the shots as we pop over here to this engagement. This is going to be center circle, a little bit off-center towards the east, but not too much, where the members of Granja del Gaming, G6, as well as the Pittsburgh Knights, have found themselves in a bit of a standoff. Different map entirely, but it's sort of reminiscent of that final moment of Vikendi, where we saw Wildcard facing off against Unnamed.
6 points for Polar Ace Esports this round, Esquire. It's not good enough. They're not going to be able to get into the top 16 if they carry on like this.
They need top 3 finishes.
Absolutely.
0 kills is fine. They just need top 3.
Pittsburgh Knights in the area. Looking to take an engagement with G6 should they press forward. Chris on the motorcycle with Miraz heading in to the graveyard area, taking refuge inside of one of the church buildings. Circle blue about to meet the circle. Next phase will pop. Let's see where it swings over. And if it gets over into that northwest area, not too bad. Heading more to the west anyway. It's going to force a lot of rotations from the east. And there's a lot of buildings to occupy, but they are very condensed together. So getting into them may prove difficult.
High ground inside of the graveyard will be in play on the western side of this phase, and also high ground on the hillside to the northeast, where a few teams will be making that entryway. Shoot to Win in the best position to at least dominantly claim that area of this phase should they make the immediate rotation, which they're already in their vehicles doing so. But the Revenants, they're going to be working their way across this wide open hilly terrain. Expect a lot of long range shots to continue to come out, especially how this circle has continued to adapt. Psycho, Shoot to Win, able to find a nice explosion, taking out one of the members of Lights Out on that path, trying to get inside of this circle.
They will make it in for the most part. A lot of teams are going to be able to do that. Silent Killer's going to press up through the graveyard to get into the circle as that territory is split by the newly formed phase. Where most of the contention is going to happen is over to the east near Junkyard, as well as moving up from the southeast into that circle. That seems to be the biggest concentration of squads, unless we see any crashes. Sim will deal with Parker from Blinded by Wind, so they're overlapping themselves quite a lot now, trying to get into that newly formed circle. You see a lot of action because of that. Peralta taking a few shots over at Lights Out. Won't find anything, should probably mount up and get back moving, because they're not in the circle themselves yet, so they need to be thinking more of the future than currently what's right in front of them.
This is the southern side of this phase number 4. The Minas Generalis area continues to be in play. It was centered up in phase number 1. But quickly, some of the teams have been shifted out. VN1 is going to have to crest over this bit of a hillside and move up to the north just a few meters. But as you can see, a team waits for them just ahead. It's going to be Method, but also on the western side of this hill. Well, they've got Unnamed, and Unnamed has shown us that they're going to be playing extremely aggressively today. And that's a dangerous situation if your name is Ran or Qui on the team of VN1. Shots, though, coming out. Pittsburgh Knights rolling in off that northern flank.
Just going to be occupying that territory over to the north. Blinded by Wind. Don't have the best position to hold, but it's good enough for now. Silent Killers have made their way into the circle. Lights Out are wrapping around all the way over to the northeast to get themselves into this newly formed circle. And at this point in time, everyone's been able to do it safely. But Shoot to Win, I think, have been spotted up by Ignite Gold. So trading shots over in the northwest. Ran did go for a different angle here. He has taken a few shots, I believe, by Blinded by Wind. But now I'm on board with Vigilante, who's scoping in across this hillside. And Lights Out trying to find a way to get over the mound and press forward. But in a nice position here from Revenants. They got a good high ground to play with, and they got that vehicle to drop down the mountain to get behind cover, and also use it as an escape should another rotation come through. They're playing edge, so more than likely they will be moving with the next phase.
I wouldn't be surprised if the members of Lights Out have spotted some of these enemies up here on the hillside, utilizing that third-person perspective. But the grenade's going to be coming out from Latinos Unidos, trying to land up on top of the members of Blinded by Wind. The connection to be had. Clonus, the nade god, you see him in the kill feed time and time again with a frag grenade right next to his name, and never on the receiving end of those grenades. Clonus will be likely pushing in as Woods pops up to the second story of these mines buildings, trying to spot out a different line of sight on his aggressors. But Clonus holding strong around the right side of that wall, trying to make sure that he can spot out Woods or Arcs as Arcs pops down to Manny, trying to stick the res.
It's not looking good for Blinded by Wind right now. It's getting more and more desperate. They're taking a lot of casualties from Latinos Unidos. Will return fire onto Clonus. Not enough to get the knock on him, but he will make him take cover and relieve some of the pressure that's happening. Next phase has popped. It's shifted all the way down to the southeast. So that's great for most of the teams in this new circle. But all of those over on that northern blue perimeter, they're going to be moving down quite fast. Psycho already feeling the hurt from that one as Lights Out taking aim against them with the Car 98. Will get a knock with a well-placed headshot coming out from outside of 9. No, from Seagut, I believe, was the person who get that one. But now his VM1 taking a clash with Unnamed. They're a 2-man squad right now. They can't, or 3-man currently in that area. Can have difficulty dealing with the full force of Unnamed, our winners of the previous map. So they need to be careful and pick their battles a little bit more wisely, I believe.
Lights Out as well engaged onto the members of Shoot to Win. A huge nade coming in from Memo, tags down Rafa as well as one other member of that squad. And Lights Out, or at least two of the other members, are going for that elevated advantage, a different flank position onto the members of Shoot to Win. Psycho just trying to hold his ground. Him and Martine are the only members currently alive for this team, and the blue zone is now working its way in. He's going to be at least trying to pick up Martin and cruise along. They're not going to be able to stick the res on their fallen teammates.
Have to leave
and
him.
Off they go.
Cut your losses.
Wave goodbye, and hope that your sacrifice is noticed by the Circle Gods.
Hopefully it'll be enough to give them a little bit of magic into that next phase when that should pop. They're making the long transition down already. Tanker dealing with Pittsburgh Knights right now. Some Rads are going to handle Bucky, who's going on a crash. Actually, Lucas as well, feeling the hurt from that explosion. Not looking good for the VN1 crew. A Shoot to Win, and Lopez and Rafa finally going to go down to that circle. So the sacrifice has been made. Will the gods shine upon them with their blood sacrifice?
So the high ground is on the eastern side of things. You can see Revenants position themselves up on top of that. They're going to be able to see a lot. Shoot to Win actually going to be going down and out to their own hand right there. Psycho gets popped out. Martine goes down as well. Out they are in 11th position. But this hillside, this tiered hillside, is becoming increasingly dangerous. Lights Out has had the window of opportunity to at least push in with Seagut and Lucifer. Memo, trailing behind, though, is trying to catch up to these teammates as G6 has spotted them out. Trying to engage onto them will be Yakup with the M16. Not finding connections, but the pressure certainly being felt by these two members of Lights Out that have pushed ahead.
Need to carry the flag for their team, keep them up in the game. HQA situated over on the, what we say, the average of the total ocean level height, or the total altitude of the map. Is pretty much midpoint right there. You see SK keeping an eye on them with a building of their own as the circle continues to push in. You see Woods in the distance. He's not looking too good right now if we're blinded by a win. I believe there's only 2 members of them left standing right now by themselves to try and carry the flag for that team. Unnamed, they're probably in the worst situation right now. They've got the cover of the terrain, but they will have to press up across the road. They are still playing edge. That next circle isn't going to hard shift back down south again, surely. So they will have to expose themselves to the gunfire of Mitts.
Well, you never know. That circle can at least surprise you sometimes. And there it is. It is going to be a bit of a shift down to the south, a little bit off center, off of our previous circle, central point. And yes, Method has found themselves continuing to be inside of the compound of the Minas Generalis area up towards the north. But a mass exodus, at least a few meters down to the south, is where 5 teams up in the northeastern corner have to roll. And G6 immediately going to be pulling off of that low ground position. Crash. They had to do this quickly, and sure enough, other teams are going to be looking in that direction, but they crash now onto Method. The shots will be coming out, and Method's going to be spraying down Yayo as the action erupts up here. Revenants will be looking down, spotting out other teams trying to make the exact same rotation that is ahead of them, and it's going to be the Pittsburgh Knights that's drawing their attention.
And Kwang, we're going to knock onto Lucifer. G6 also feeling the hurt from Pride. Ever Fury then going to finally get that flush onto Yayo. We'll confirm that flush coming through and take them down another man. As they're holding down onto the central position. Jakob is in pro near them. If their Clay pops out a little bit too far, maybe even if Pride does as well, could see some casualties drop, but that's HQA still taking that engagement with Lights Out. You can see Lights Out on life support in the distance. Espinosa just getting recovered as they send Vigilante over to get even more of that as well. But Chacho will be dropped out by Arc, so that's Latinos Unidos just down to Clonus and Mateus.
Revenants are about to succumb to the blue zone here as they need to make this move. Peralta trying to do just that. Will be connected upon by Monarchs, AKM. Pittsburgh Knights picking up another knock onto a team that had the high ground above them. Espinosa just trying to stay alive. Will it be enough? No, it's not. Out they go, and out go the entirety of the Revenants here in 9th place position. But other teams lie ahead of the Knights, and they're starting to prep for that push that has to continue on. Smoke grenades rather coming out, trying to get the concealment, but Latinos Unidos inside of the shack have spotted out Jagger. Jagger trying to at least get some shots in through the window, not able to find the connections. His position is completely exposed now. Clonus, though, will be tagged up. M416 taking him down and out.
And the fire is coming in from the other angle. You could see the Latinos Unidos trying to get away with this one. Mateus running for his life. There is the flush to knock out Clonus as well. Latinos Unidos going out in 8th place.
Blue zone now working its way in towards phase number 6. Phase number 7 is on the horizon here in just a few seconds as Method continues to hold 4 strong on this compound, but it has been infiltrated. One member of G6, Jakob, holding on to the northeastern corner of the building on the outside, unnamed, 3 strong, and a compound just to the southeast of that position, and Everfury is under fire. He is going to be trying to at least crawl back to his teammates, but taking so much damage in the bleed out phase will likely be flushed. And there he goes to the hands of Bill, unnamed, being a force to be reckoned with down here to the south of this phase.
They haven't got the best of positions right now, but they are in that next phase. When that next blue touches it, here's a Molotov coming in from G-Bay. We'll throw it in. Won't find a connection for now, but it will cut off some paths for Unnamed to take should they have to reposition, which is highly likely considering their position in the new circle. Kwang being knocked down by Mitts and the rest of Silent Knights who are playing around this fence, not inside the territory, but it's enough cover to move into. Next circle won't actually force a movement from Unnamed. They're still in the territory as it collapses even further onto Method and Silent Killers. It's those teams on the northeast border that are going to have to run down the hill to these compounds.
HQA and Pittsburgh Knights to be exact. Their hope is that the distraction comes out from all of these teams down here on the southern side, and they can make that rotation, but HQA is taking casualty after casualty. Quang going to be bleeding out, and the other members of that HQA squad are trying to pick up the res on their fallen teammate over towards the west. Able to recover off of that. Michael able to get the meds, but Quang and Yifei have been spotted out. Again, Quang is bleeding out. Yifei has to stick the res, and he only has a bus to hide behind, and there's no way that Mitz is going to be pulling off of this. He's got to cover the wall on his eastern flank and just has to worry about the teams up towards the north.
Unless there's some utility from HQA, it's going to be really difficult to get back out of this position. Here come Blinded by Wind, trying to make that rotation round of the building Unnamed are gathering, but Jagger's already taken out 2 members, and that's to make that a third. HQA being removed by Pittsburgh Knights, but here's Wi-Fi. Now from this other angle, finding Arcs quite easily. Woods going to get dropped down as well. That's Blinded by Wind, going out in 6th place. Now they're trying to turn their attention onto Unnamed. Misky getting dropped down. Wi-Fi able to pick up sequential frags here just from this angle and push the aggression from this man.
Wi-Fi, the IGL for the Pittsburgh Knights squad, trying to lead his team to victory. He's trying to get a third-person peek around the right-hand corner of that door, but not able to do so because of too much smoke concealment inside. But now he's got perfect line of sight onto the members, and yes, it's too many. Quickly pulling out of that and trying to get get a little bit more information as to the location of the members of Unnamed inside. Not able to save Jagger or Monarch. He's going
Last
to
man
be the only
standing for
member
Pittsburgh
remaining.
Knights.
Yeah, and this is the position to be in. He's going to be on the outskirts. He's got a flank completely eliminated. And we'll just use Unnamed sort of as your protectors, your bodyguards that pop up when you need to.
That is, of course, unless Unnamed realize how parasitic you're being and throw you out of this compound. Jakob doing a similar strategy with Method over there as well. The only complete squad, well, beyond the likes of Unnamed, who are a final squad in the previous map, is Silent Killers. So they've even progressed further. This team just keeps improving on their placements match after match.
Yeah, this has been a pretty chaotic circle, so making it this far is certainly a testament not only to your team's mechanical skill, but also your strategy. Raven popped out of the building, right into that parasite of Wi-Fi, but Wi-Fi quickly spotted out. It's only going to take a quick run outside for Sin to spray him down with the M416, but now Miski is working his way over towards the member of the Silent Killers. They have been spotted out, Silent Killers being diligent not to lose sight of any of their remaining enemies in this match. 4 teams remaining, 12 players alive, a 3-player per team average. As we approach the 30-minute mark of Miramar, well, it's going to erupt even more than it has already. Silent Killers now taking casualties to the likes of Unnamed.
We'll get the spray down onto Bill and close that angle down. We'll force a reposition from Unnamed, so they are going to leave their side of Mitford unexposed a little bit further. Whereas we'll continue to spray through, but that's drawn attention of Clay, who will get the knockdown to him. There's a bit of a standoff going on. Jakob, the only player keeping his head down for now, as he should do as a solo operator.
Final circle, phase number 9 is on the horizon here as the blue zone now starts to shrink in. And teams are going to have to be ultra aware if they weren't already. Sin just trying to push back to that centralized location, trying to disengage off the fight that he was taking with the members of the Silent Killers. All 4 members, though, of our victorious squad from match number 1 of the day still alive.
Big Cook.
And they're trying to get the repeat. Cook going in to the members of Method, not able to find the connection. Cooked a little bit too long and exploding right in front of the face of G-Bay.
Not enough to deal the damage, though. There's the knock on to Miski. Mitz also going to get the flush off of that one, so 1 member down immediately for them. Raven pushed up, going to get a headshot onto Mitz. Bill dropping down. It's all on Sin right now, as Raven will heal up to try and get in position to cover this recovery. They're going for Bill, but he's knocked down before he can get that molly off. Chris still holding the angle, applying so much pressure to Unnamed, and now Sin will have to clutch this himself. But there's the spray down from him, tries to return fire.
Oh.
It's great shooting by Sin. Will now flip the cards, flip the tables. The medkit being used rather than the heal, but Bill is on his last life and the blues coming in. He has to sacrifice them here. Sin's going to go down to this surely as he gets to, struggles to get the med kit off. Now, the final 2 squads remain. It's Method versus Silent Killers for the second map win of the evening.
Method's loving it. They're hanging out inside of this building, letting every other team just rip through each other on the outskirts of this compound. There's no better way to walk away with the win than letting your opponents do the work for you, but Felix is going to be popping out from behind cover. Clay prepped and ready with the M416 to spray him down. Will likely have the flush here in a second's time as they continue to move around this building, making sure that all angles of approach are going to be covered. The members of Silent Killers also coming to the blue zone. One left alive. It's just going to be Mitz. He's trying to get the meds off, and this game is sure enough going to be going the way of Method here in game number 2 of the day. It's just a few seconds time before we see that secured.
G-Bay going to press round. Mitz has spotted him, holding the angle right now. He did knock Pride already. He's in a good position. He might be able to clutch this one, but he will go down eventually. Method coming out with the win. They're going to take that one away from Silent Killers, who are just on the up and up today, Esquire.
13 kills, second place for the members of the Silent Killers. Certainly a dominant showing for them. But just because of the positioning, they weren't able to close it out. It goes the way of Method, who held strong in that compound. And again, it wasn't without their skill being tested. They had many a team trying to contest that area of the map. And, well, it goes their way. A huge first place victory rather for game number 2 here on Miramar. But that's it. Miramar has now been wiped off of the maps. We are no longer playing anything other than Erangel to finish out the day.
Yeah, we've got back-to-back Erangel coming up shortly. Like I said, I can't stress the importance. Silent Killers were a middle-of-the-pack team, potentially even middle to bottom. But they've just been showing up in this final week. They're desperate to make sure and stake a claim on that top 16. They've got 2 more maps to prove it and guarantee it. We're going to go to those maps shortly. But first, here comes a quick break.
Welcome back, everyone, to the final day of play for the North American PUBG Mobile Club Open Semifinals. We just saw our first two matches of the evening played out. Miramar was certainly exciting. And Trid, before we get it shifted into our two Erangel matches of the day, we got to talk about what happened during that match and take a look at some of our highlights.
Yeah, let's jump straight into those ones, Phil. Let's have a quick look. It's a fantastic game played by all, and it started, this is the first one, and this raised so many question marks for me. Not this part necessarily, it's more about where the second half of this 2-2 split for Polaris Esports are while this engagement is happening on. As soon as the fire's coming in from the Overwatch position, you need to be backing this one up. And yes, this part of the conflict was inspired by Polaris Esports committing to an already lost fight. And yeah, sure, they got themselves 4 points on the board, ultimately ending with 6. But when you're taking this engagement, you're dropped down to one member in the first couple of minutes of this round. It's disastrous for you when you need these placement points. They put themselves basically on such thin ice right now, they're going to fall through at any moment.
Another team that felt disaster at the hands of the Silent Killers was the Misfits on top of the stairwell leading up to the Aquifer. They were taken out early on here in this game. Another misstep for the Misfits as they continue on here into the final two games. But Pittsburgh Knights had a pretty good push from the north down to the south. Unfortunately, ultimately, were taken out early, or I guess I believe in 4th or 5th position here. But Wi-Fi trying to be the solo player champion after he lost his other two members, trying to at least inhibit the members of Unnamed from pushing on. But as you see, Unnamed did push on. They made it into the top 4, and it was a quick spray down from Sin back onto the Silent Killers that at least saved their positioning there. But saved it for how long, Trid?
Not very long for them, because then Chris is going to come out and bang. Now look at this position, it's absolutely disastrous. G-Bay's going to be able to finish this one off, but before this happened, Method had control of an entire property to themselves, and they just had a clear line of sight through a window for all of SK's movements. They couldn't move anywhere without running into Method fire, and ultimately just gave them such an advantage when it came down to that final skirmish. I didn't see any way that Method didn't walk away with that one.
No, and in very impactful game for Method. Let's see how impactful, though, as we take a peek at our scoreboards and how the standings have updated after game number 2 of the final day of gameplay has played out. Polaris Esports, unfortunately, dropping back down to that 24th position, but we haven't seen any other teams, at least from the lobbies playing tonight, drop back down. Still only confirmed teams that will not be joining us in the regional finals here in a few weeks' time is going to be version 2 White, as well as 4 Hokage, but that could quickly change as we continue to look up the leaderboards.
The horizon is moving further away from those teams in that lower section. Let's have a look in the 16th place position, because this is where it really starts to hot up a bit. Tempo not playing any matches today on 171. You saw it's 161 for 17th place. 10 points accrued by that team will put them over and knock Tempo into relegation zone. So I'm going to say it now, Tempo aren't making it to our top 16. It's really hard to play 2 maps of Erangel and not find a total of 10 points unless you're trying to lose.
Yeah, certainly. So it's going to be at least even more sweatier of a watch party. We definitely said that it's going to be tense over there at the Tempo Storm Gaming House, but it continues to develop. But look at what Method was able to do. They now are sitting in 15th place. Definitely not safe. But as we continue up these leaderboards, these are the teams that are likely going to be moving into the regional finals unless something absolutely insane happens. But Wildcard continues to climb up. They didn't rack up really any of the points they needed there, Trade, because we saw them go out in 16th position, and I believe they only got 3 kills off of that. So 3 points netted in total is going to inhibit them from reaching Space Station Gaming. I think it's, if you say Tempo Storm's going out, I'm just going to go ahead and take the other side of this and say Wildcard's not beating Space Station Gaming.
59 points, not out of the realm of possibility.
Hey,
if they
I gave you Tempo dropping out. Give me the wild card not meeting the Space Station Gaming squad.
Okay. We'll agree to disagree on that one. I think it's still possible
Sure.
if they have some stellar games on Erangel, and they typically do when it comes round to this particular map. It is one of the ones that you need to nail because we play it twice as much over that sometimes of any other map we play. Let's pull up a head-to-head for you guys to focus on. It's all about that race for survival. Method and Blinded by a Win. Method are previous map winners, now in a situation where they are fighting off the relegation zone. They're 15th place right now, but Blinded by Win have also been climbing a lot today. They could potentially leapfrog over Method in the next 2 maps.
Yeah, 20 points separates these two teams, and in between them, well, that's Tempo Storm. Without further ado, though, let's kick it over into our 3rd game of the evening, our penultimate match of the semifinals here for the PUBG Mobile Club Open, and that plane path coming out of the far southeastern corner of the map with not so steep of an angle, going to be ending up on the west coast, just south of Hospital. Make no mistakes, the far northeastern areas of the map are going to be a bit of a stretch. Kameshki and Stalber, where a few teams that have started to shift to, will be a bit of a parachute for them. They're going to have the scenic route.
Taking a bit of a scenic route. not sure if any of the teams in this particular lobby will commit to it. I'm expecting Misfits. Now, usually what Misfits did was drop on Military Island. The past day of action, or the previous day of action we saw them play, they weren't doing that. Now they're going back to their roots, looking to take control. They're even not having to share this territory with the likes of Are You Scared, who usually come onto this island as well. So Misfits are going to have free reign here to play their classic standard game they opened and dominated the club open with.
Yeah, in between games 2 and 3, I ran over to the Misfits vehicles. They're real-life cars, and I slapped some bumper stickers on it that say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Go back to the strategies that got you to this place to begin with. And that certainly is the advice that they are heeding in this regard as the rest of the plane starts to depart as well. HQA might very well be the final team to jump out of the cargo hold, likely going up towards that South Georgia Bowl spot, where we have traditionally seen them land, but now they have their maps open, and they see that far eastern phase number 1 that's going to be popping just off to the northwest, centralized of Mansion.
Revenant should head up to that Yasnaya area. They typically like to favor that one. Unnamed as expected, claim their land in Pachinki. It's pretty much been theirs the entirety of the group and semifinal stage. Have a look at your screen though. Latinos Unidos taking some fire from Wildcard, looking to have a big game today. They've not really shown up as much as they should do in the previous 2 maps, taking those shots already at the Latinos Unidos moving vehicle. Not found the knocks, dealing damage for the time being. Latinos Unidos gonna get away with some of their life.
Tell you something else Latinos Unidos haven't been showing up for. That's VOD review. Had they been, they would have known that Wildcard loves this Milta power. Big and small Milta area. Another team that finds themselves amongst conflict again. Going to be the members of Lights Out, this time with Shoot to Win here in Razak, the western side held by Lights Out, the eastern side, as well as the southern structures across the road being held by Shoot to Win. Martine on the south. You can see Memo has already taken about maybe 30% of his health, and he's probably going to be trying to find some boost to try to mitigate that and bring it back up to full HP. Because this is likely going to be a battle that we don't see disengaged upon just yet. You're likely going to see at least a few more pot shots, a few more connections between these 2 squads.
Got themselves tasty gear already, so they're looking to progress further on in the Rozhok area. Keeping Shoot to Win at bay. There is a nice split coming on here, actually. You've got a member of Lights Out over to the east, basically pincering in Shoot to Win. That does pose difficulties. If Shoot to Win decide to exit Rozhok to the east, they may run into that solo player, Seagut. You can see him there in the distance. May cause some problems for them, but it also provides Seagut to be in a position where he can feed information over to Lights Out and potentially instigate a pincer against this particular team.
Revenant's going to be seeing at least another team heading into Yasnaya Poyana. Typically when we see Revenants play on Erangel, they have Space Station Gaming in the lobby with them, and they split it west and east between those 2 respective squads. But this time they don't have to worry about them. This time the Revenants have to worry about
VN1.
The members of VN1. Yes, exactly right. Pittsburgh Knights, though, that's going to be 7, just to the south of 2 of the members of Polar Ace Esports, JBP and Shakes. Again, I mean, if you just say, Trid, show me the early game conflict where Polar Ace Esports is engaged, you can just assume that because that's what we've been seeing time and time again. And this is not a position that they want to be in. They're going to need record-breaking games here in the final 2 rounds of the semifinals to at least have a hope and a dream here, and it's essentially going to be a dream at that.
They've held their nerve on that particular engagement there, and they've let Pittsburgh Knights get away, but there's JBP getting a knock onto 7 as they're looking to escape. So they're taking early fights again. If they can capitalize without taking any casualties, more power to them, because that's going to rack up more points on the board. Looks like Jagger's just going to leave 7 behind here, so JBP going to pick up a kill for Polar Ace Esports, with most importantly, not losing any of their own in the process.
Yes, that is the shift off of what happened in the previous game on Miramar. They're going to be at least feeling happy about this, but 1 point is...
Oh, that's not necessarily true.
No.
Monarch's coming back in. This is exactly what happened last time. You get a knock and then the reinforcements come in. Unless they capitalize off of this, it's same story after the other. They're just repeating everything. Like poetry, it's going to rhyme.
And rhyme it does. Those gunshots continue to come out between these squads. JBP prepping a nade. It won't be having the intended distance, but his teammate gets one a little bit closer. The pressure certainly being felt by the Pittsburgh Knights right now.
Squad.
Wi-Fi going to be pulling in, holding the Overwatch position. He's got a little bit of elevation to work off of to give the information to his teammates.
So where is the second half of this split? This is exactly what happened last time, and it was punished, and 2 members, they're on the north of Gatka. They're on the other side of this territory. Pittsburgh Knights looking to escape. Nice shots from JBP. Will get the knock onto 7 again and force Pittsburgh Knights to be restricted from making this exfiltration.
The vehicle has been exploded as well. Monarch at least deploying rather a smoke wall to make his way over to the buggy that was lying on the dirt road right out to the side. That could be their saving grace. Wi-Fi is going to be going to the high ground right here. This is a smart play. Wi-Fi continues to pull off the information for his teammates. Not just information is what he's seeking here. He's going to be able to spot out Shakes. Nice shots coming out from the M416. One more tap will do it, and out they go. They're going to be bleeding out, and JBP is essentially just trying to do whatever he can to stay undetected because Shakes is going out. But here comes the other split. The other two members of this Polar Ace Esports squad that had landed over in Gatka. They took a little bit too long to get here, and yes, Trade, exactly how you said it. They're feeling the same hurt that they felt in game number 2 on Miramar, but they are pulling off. Wi-Fi still has the position on the hill, and he's almost laying the trap, just waiting for JBP to push over to Shakes to try to stick the res.
You've got Skizzo and Dilly trying to come in and salvage this one. Putting some fire on to Wi-Fi up on the hill to force him back, but he's mounting up and leaving. A team that retreats when they're in a disadvantage of numbers? How peculiar, Esquire.
Listen, if you're one of the top 16 teams moving on to the regional finals, this is the type of strategy, the type of discipline that you need to possess if you have your sights on going to the global finals and trying to stake your claim to the $2.5 million. Wi-Fi continuing to put out some pressure, but now at least knowing it's time to retreat off of that. Being a smart player right now, getting the smoke out to conceal his bike while he tries to pick it up off the ground and continue that disengage. But as you can see on the mini-map, another member of the Knights is coming back to provide some Overwatch positioning for Wi-Fi now. And he's going to need it because the pressure is being applied from Polar Ace Esports.
Teammates repositioning to help each other. How peculiar, Esquire.
Damn, I'm just going to stay away from this altogether. I love all of these teams, right? I mean, you have to. You have to as Wi-Fi, Monarch, and the rest of the Pittsburgh Knights start to disengage off of this. It looks like some of the members, though, of this squad of Polar Ace, they're pushing on even further towards the members of the Pittsburgh Knights, and well, all they have to do is pop out of their vehicles because the Knights have the benefit of some cover to work off of. Skizzo, though, and Dilly are pushing on. I mean, they want blood. They need the points, Trid, so there's really not a lot of risk. They have to put all of their eggs in this basket because it's their last hope.
But they're doing it in such a high-risk, high-reward fashion, and they're not putting in easily managed assurances to make sure or mitigate the risk. They're still running with this 2-2 split. You've got two members trying to catch up behind them who are on recovery. Shake's still trying to find that HP because I don't necessarily think he's got the resources to do so. And the fact that Skizzo and Dilly were still chasing after Pittsburgh Knights, who was shown that they were completely aware that they were being followed, willing to stop and return fire to disengage off of this fact. They're still going to press forward and try and catch out members of Pittsburgh Knights. The Blue Zone's coming in as well. So now they're hunting players that are just going to keep on traveling away from them. And they're going to keep a parallel distance away while they try and handle this pursuit. Thankfully, Skizzo's going for resources instead, as he should be, because his team's not looking too healthy right now.
We've talked about this fight.
Shake's going down to the play zone.
That's unfortunate to see, right? No meds for them. We talked about the fight, but we didn't talk about the implications of both of these teams wasting a lot of time over on the western side of the circle. They've given up any opportunity to get those high-priority locations now inside of the central point of phase number 1, and the shift is going to be coming here in about 10 seconds' time. And all that the Pittsburgh Knights can do here is just try to send it further and further into the circle and avoid those high contested points of interest. Phase number 2, though, will be popping a shift a little bit off of the central point of phase number 1 down to the south. Water will be in play off the Milta coast as well as the Lipovka coast, but continuing on their path will be the Knights, pulling up now to Potato Hill, but unnamed just up to the north. Lights out rolling out of Razak as well.
It's HQA coming in from the furthest distance at the moment. They'll be heading in around just south of the Roshok area. Most of the teams are positioning themselves further up to the north of this circle, so there's a lot of space to play with down in the south. But if you remember where these teams were dropping, they were occupying that Milta, the farm, the shelter area, so it's going to be quite barren of resources if you're going down there. So yes, you can move in there uncontested, but if you're a team like Pittsburgh Knights and potentially here Polar Ace Esports, who took early engagements in favor of looting, you're going to be so far behind the rest of the lobby right now.
That you are. Shakes does succumb to the blue zone from that bleeding out phase, will be out of the game, leaving his team to try to do whatever they can with one man down. Yife, he's still in the blue zone. Carr might be stuck. You see him looking around, maybe trying to get some meds off real quick before he continues on. Not exactly. Yep, definitely trying to get the boost going, trying to get the bandages going.
JPP's gone down to the play zone. That's the second member of Polar Ace Esports killed by blue.
Yeah, sure. They're playing their own game. They're not playing PUBG Mobile. That's certainly at least what we're telling by them. But I mean, they're falling apart at the seams. Is essentially what's happened to Polar Ace Esports. And they're not really at least capitalizing on what they need to. They need to play aggressive. They need to take risks, but they're taking all the wrong risks at the wrong time. HQA's Yafei going to be continuing on now, trying to escape the blue zone that shrinks its way in here towards phase number 2. But most of our teams have found themselves safe inside of the zone. One team in particular that's holding on to center position, well, you guessed it. If you're at home and you said Misfits, because that's exactly who it is, they love this spot, and they're going to have a high ground advantage over the members of Blinded by Win, who have had a pretty good day today as well.
On the up and up, one of our teams to watch in this next head-to-head, and method of fine for now.
JBP, what are you doing, bud?
He was already knocked. That was just the flush coming in on that one.
Mm.
Skizzo's going to make his way in, I believe, with Dilly into the area to the southwest. The less we talk about Polos Esports for now, the better. Let's focus on Misfits, who are suppressing Blinded by Win in that particular property, so abusing that high ground that you already mentioned so profoundly, Esquire.
You know, I always talk about, I think that at least sometimes, I always say the bike has one of the highest KDs of any player in the entirety of this game. Well, I think the blue zone is making at least a push for that here in this tournament. We've seen time after time players have been going down to the blue zone, and it's not a point deny. It's just a matter of mistakes that players have been making. But again, holding on to the northwestern shelter area will be the Misfits. They haven't committed to going down inside of the shelter because they absolutely don't need to. Why cut yourself off from those lines of sight and your surroundings unless the circle continues to shrink on this and you're forced down in to the depths of Erangel to try to stay alive. Many other teams, though, just continuing to make slight adjustments, trying to get a more favorable spot here inside of phase number 2. And, well, a few of those teams that are likely going to be moving out of Yasnaya right now. VN1 on the southern side of that city, as well as Revenant's going to be pushing down as well. Bucky, though, he's in the apartments. He's going to be able to get some information for his teammates. Kui, who's holding on to the southern wall border here of Yasnaya. Retreating, though, Bucky's going to be back with his teammate in the 2-man unit.
So we've got very smart of them to play around the outside. Obviously, Revenant's still festering that area. Next phase is going to pop. Let's get that up on your screens. Moving over to the southwest, or mainly central west, more likely. We're still going to force a lot of these teams over on the eastern border to move over, mainly Revenants from the Yasnaya area. So there's the likes of Wildcard, SK, you got Latinos Unidos over there, but most importantly, Ignite Gold over in the Lipovka area. You're going to have to make the farthest rotation. But if you're Polos Esports, you're going to take a breather. You're not going to have to move for now. You can try and collect yourselves, maybe salvage some loot from the situation and try and get yourself back in the game. Misfits already with the fast rotation moving into potentially a more central position, trying to get ahead of the curve.
And you can see on the map a lot of shots already coming out as the Pittsburgh Knights try to make that exact same rotation. Blinded by Win moving in, G6 coming in as well. But we're going to be taking a look at now Wi-Fi. You saw them engage onto the members of Polaris Esports to start off this game. But let's see if they've been able to at least gather themselves and pick up that strategy and get out of those chaotic moments that they found themselves in a few minutes ago. Pulling off entirely, they've got the vehicles to work with. So the mobile cover could come in to play a factor for this Pittsburgh Knights squad, but they are looking around just trying to scout their surroundings. And I'm not sure if in that jump Wi-Fi was able to spot out any of the members of that squad. I believe that was going to be the name inside of that newer compound of the map, but the action will be popping out. BN1 now taking casualty after casualty as Bucky and Rand try to survive.
Key was actually knocked down by a little bit of vehicular manslaughter. Not been flushed out yet. I believe he actually may. No, he's still in the point of recovery as Lucas is going to salvage some loot as they reposition to try and get that member back on his feet. Fire still coming in. Over in the distance, Bucky having to take cover for now. It's Method laying down the pressure, potentially looking to get that flush, and they will get it by just taking those shots. Now Bucky's left isolated, stuck behind a tree, and Method, they've got plenty of guns trained in that direction.
Wildcard also going to be looking at the members of VN1, the two members that are split off to the southwest position of where Bucky is currently holding on to. He's trading out some loot right now. He switched out his helmet for a tier 3. That's going to be a good pickup for him as we transition into the mid-game. Phase number 3 in full effect as the blue zone shrinks in. And we're going to be going into phase 4 here in about 30 seconds time. But VN1's Rand spots out the Revenants in that transition. He's got to hold them off this dip, just trying to apply some pressure, but pressure coming from the north as well as the Pittsburgh Knights spot out this rotation.
We'll get him down to about 5% HP. It's not looking good for Espinoza right now. Vigilante's also low, but there comes the knock. That's 2 members down. Espinoza's on life support right now, and Tanker, he's trying to find a way into this one. Espinoza's finally going to go down. Tanker, the vehicle will stop. Couldn't change the seats fast enough, and Revenants will go out in 50th place to the hands of Misfits.
Misfits now starting to at least show us that dominant force that they've been working with throughout the past 4 weeks. And this is the time to do it, leave a bad taste in everyone else's mouth, and be riding high on that momentum. But Zeus, Wildcard, you see him pretty much caught out. Wildcard has been taking casualties here in this engagement from two different teams, Blinded by Win and VN1. Certainly going to be looking this direction of that destructible wooden shack as Latinos Unidos make their way in from the east. But next circle is popped.
Revo's got so far to go.
Yeah,
he's with no vehicle. Look at the distance traveled. That blue is going to outpace him as well on his current trajectory, so he's going to spend a lot of time in there.
He's going to be like Forrest Gump. Next time we look at him, he's going to have a beard, and he's going to be still running in those jogging shoes. But he's got to continue on. I mean, he's got a hope and a dream, and certainly that's more than some teams.
That dream's going to be ended by Rain. Look where Rain is right now. Surely he will spot this out.
Maybe.
If he doesn't, Method will spot it out.
But here's the thing. Rain needs to reunite with his teammates that have already bombed into the center of this phase. I don't think he's going to be worried too much about what is coming out of the blue zone.
Point.
He's got to worry about what he's going to be going through to try to get to his teammates, and certainly a lot of squads that he has to at least maneuver his way around. Thankful for a little bit of death play, but this destructible shack is not where he wants to stop. I would have liked to have seen Wildcard try to pick up that member and then get the hell out of Dodge. They're not going to be able to do so as the action starts to erupt. Lights Out could be spotting out uneven from the Misfits, destroying his US entirely, but creating a bit of cover for him to now hide behind.
He's got a bit of cover. Here come Latinos Unidos bombing in. They're taking a lot of fire. The Lights Out are going to have the absolute slaughtering field on them. And Mateus dropped out of the vehicle, dropped out of the server, and Chacho's going to be following him as well. Easily done there by Lights Out. Just a bit of a positional error from Latinos Unidos. Revos has still survived, actually. He got himself a vehicle, and he's going to go. The grenade comes out from Seagut to seal the deal against Chacho. I don't think Revo can help him. As you can see, Clonus coming in here, trying to wrap around to potentially get a resurrection and keep his teammate in the game. But he's going up against four members of Lights Out who are looking in that general direction. I don't know how you can approach this one without being seen. The grenade coming in again?
Chacho had like 5 HP. He was behind that little bit of death blade on the eastern side of the road. He was probably saying to Revo in team chat, he's like, hey, I think I'm safe. Then he hears the nade fall right by his feet and gets taken down.
Lying down with shrapnel in his body going, nailed it, as he just finally gets himself killed off the back end of that. So I don't think Revo's going to go for this one. Look at him, he's hunkered down in that shack. Chacho will bleed out as Rain gets a knock onto Uneven. And there's Arx actually going to come and steal that kill away from Lights Out. Importantly, Blinded by Win, racking up the points where they can.
They certainly are, and that's how you have to play this. But now Method is pushing up onto the members of VN1. VN1 responding with some nice frag grenades that are applying the damage onto Everfury, but he and Steamy and Pride are holding back in those Overwatch positions while Clay plays the forward push, at least for this squad. Ran and the rest of VN1, though, utilizing the third-person peek over this little bit of death blade, trying to spray up and then immediately retreat back down to get a different line of sight onto them. But Everfury's prepping up the grenades. It's cooking, but will he be finding that frag? Nope. Luke is going to be rotating a very quick and safe rotate for him to make to avoid that entirely.
So surprised. Look at the size of the circle, and we got 14 teams remaining in this one. Probably going to be 13 soon as this VM1 Method fight keeps going. A lot of smoke obscuring the vision as well as cover, but Rams found the angle. Everfury's going to get knocked down there. Now it's a 3v3. This levels the playing field for VN1 to try and capitalize. They're going to try and fight Everfury as well. They get that flush on. Some fire coming in from the side. It's Blinded by Win. Look at the third party on this one and rack up some of those extra points. And especially considering they're going head-to-head with Method for a placement right now. VN1 can take them out, and then they deal with VN1. Oh, baby, that's looking good for them to overtake.
Yeah, keep in mind, Method was a team that was able to push themselves into position number 15 coming into this game. They are not safe whatsoever. In fact, they are dangerously, at least facing off against finding themselves in the bottom 8 positions coming into the fourth and final game of the day and the final game of the semifinals. But again, the circle, it's gone up here towards the northeast. They don't have to move too much. They can continue to at least hold safe, but they've got to deal with VN1 eventually. It's not going to be a friendly standoff here, and that's going to be Steamy connected upon the M416 ringing true for the members of VN1. Lucas, to be exact, as now they try to capitalize, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see a 3-man push coming out from VN1 here shortly.
You're absolutely right, Squire. Method have been gifted a gift from the gods, so to speak, with this circle placement, but VN1 are still keeping up the pressure. If they rush onto this one and take that position away from Method, you've got a little bit of fortification there. You've got a tree and a shack to play around with. It's better than being where you are right now. Yeah, you're playing around terrain, but obviously you want to have a little bit of high ground and some guaranteed safety from the angles, especially with the blue back up against you.
Lights Out, as well as the Misfits, going to be taking aim at Unnamed right now. It's going to be the Misfits who find the first knock, but you have to be fearful if you are pinched in between two very powerful squads like you see here. But G6 rolling off the backside, the northern flank on Lights Out. This is the completely exposed flank here in this dip that we're going to coin the Lights Out dip from here on out. Yayo popped inside of the shack. VN1 still off the distance to the north, dealing with Method, but the pressure continues to be applied all around the map as Zenith comes in with some huge nades
triple
up on top of Unnamed.
Quadra kill!
Holy cow, Zenith!
Oh, here we go. That's more like it. Unnamed
is Misfits
dismantled by Zenith's grenade coming in. Gave it with love.
He gave it with a little bit of something. I don't think love was even mentioned in that frag grenade. It was pure hatred coming in there because that's Misfits now asserting their dominance. They needed plays like that, and that's also Zenith coming in here to replace Acer off of that group stage roster. But the battle continues.
Grenade action doesn't stop. That's a double from Kwang right there. The knock on to Ignite Gold. What is with grenades this round, Esquire? They're popping off.
It's PUBG, Trid. Grenades are huge. That's one thing that we've learned over the last few weeks of play. It is the meta. You stack as many smokes, as many frag grenades in that backpack as possible because this is what you see happening. Ignite Gold being absolutely destroyed. Misfits going to be picking up their 5th kill of the game. And out they go. Ignite Gold in 11th place.
Unfortunately for them, 10 teams remaining. Yamon's going to get knocked down by Woods, blinded by Win, having an absolute stonker of a game this time, Esquire. They're racking up the kills and they're getting the placements as well. They're on this trajectory. They're going to do exactly what they want and guarantee themselves that top 16. Look at Polo Ace Esports. They're being forced out by the blue. Lights Out may spot them as they're aggressing into their immediate vicinity. They've got to hear the footsteps. Surely they turn around and pivot on this one and deal with Polo Ace Esports in their weakened state. Skizzo going down first. Dilly's in the ground. He's throwing a grenade out for cover, but that's Polo Ace Esports going out in 10th place. It's better, but it's still not good enough.
The grenade did come out. It applied a lot of damage onto the members of Lights Out. The post-mortem grenade not, though, finding any of the intended knocks. That's all she wrote for Polar Ace Esports. I don't feel that we are going to be seeing them in the regional finals here. But again, we continue on. 9 teams left here in this match, 28 players alive, and it's going to be HQA's Kwang spotting out the members of Pittsburgh Knights in a bit of a rotation up here towards the hard shift of phase number 5 that has gone to the north once again. But Pittsburgh Knights are getting absolutely decimated through HQA's Kwang, getting the vehicle explosion as well as the M416 tags onto the Knights.
Perksas will get the knock on to Parker, so blind by Win starting to be dealt with here. Zephan with the knock on to Monarch. Felix going to be dropped down by Jagger, but it's Wi-Fi on the sights of Kwang. Applying the pressure. Jagger actually getting the flush onto Miraz, which will take out the rest of the SK lineup. So no team kill for that gentleman over there as Kwang will look to pivot over towards Lights Out's territory. Needs to be looking a little bit further. There's Xenov lying down in the grass, separated from the rest of his team.
Lights Out have departed that dip. The Lights Out dip just over to the south of where this position for Method is currently being held. They tried to bomb it in, but they are taking a lot of damage in the process. You see the knocks coming out, but Method is swarming onto the members of VN1. Pride trying to find a lot of connections, and some of them being successfully had, but he's got to retreat back into the shack to try to get his teammate Clay up, and Steamy has been knocked as well. It's just going to be Pride on his feet, and 7th place is not where the members of Method want to be going out here in this game. They've got to push it a little bit further to continue to rack up the points, but the kill feed continues to light up. Steamy will be flushed out of the game, and now they've got to worry about Bucky and Lucas. Rand still going to be bleeding out, so a proper 2v2 at least here on the northeastern side of the circle.
Kwang will be the man to start to end Method's reign of terror right now. Xenoph on 7 kills. We drop down, and here comes the final confirmation. Lucas going to take Method out and send them packing. You see Xenoph in the distance. Like I was saying, he was on 7 kills by himself, but he's finally being ended by Kwang. A lot of pressure being applied. Pyro is too far away to help. Zephan rotating into the center of the circle with that vehicle. A lot of HQA members separate and spread out in this territory, but they are the most dominant force right now. As you look at Zephan picking up another kill onto Parker, you still got 2 members of Blinded by Win in this game, and they made themselves into the top 5. This is a great performance and a great result for Blinded by Win.
Zenith going to be flushed out of the game. HQA continues to take frag after frag that they can find here in the remaining moments of game number 3. But Arcs, he is going to be hiding behind this dossier. He hears the shots coming out from behind him and quickly diverts his attention to that direction. Wi-Fi needs to be careful. He's one of the only members, if maybe the only member alive for the Pittsburgh Knights, and he's got to play this effectively, but VN1 continues to take these casualties. VN1 have lost the war of attrition. I wouldn't be surprised if their vests and helmets are all in the red, their meds are depleted, their utility is depleted by trying to deal with Method over the last few minutes of this fight. But they continue to push on. They've got some deflate to work off of, but it's not going to be safe here inside of phase number 6.
Ran is the only person with a vest, and it's the tattered rags of a level 1 vest that he's left with right now. There is barely any armor on the side of VN1. You're absolutely right, Esquire. It's looking pretty dire for them if they have to expose themselves. Michael not doing that as he lies down in the smoke as a sneaky little snake.
He's got a tier 3 helmet and a tier 3 vest.
He's also got a central position on the circle as well.
They're looking good. They're looking good, Trid.
in a great position to capitalize on this one and walk away with a map win here.
Was it HQA that lost the 4v1v1 the other day on Erangel? Was that HQA?
It might have been. I can't recall.
I hope so, or else I've completely thrown HQA under the bus, but I'm fairly certain that it was. That's going to be nice shots coming out, but unfortunately right thereafter he is taken out of the game. And that's going to be it for the Pittsburgh Knights. Kwang continues to frag out. HQA is having a hell of a game here.
Kwang's having a hell of a game. He's on 8 kills already. Pyro will get the knock onto Ran. The solo player now being removed. VM1 are on life support as HQA throw the grenade in. Michael again. HQA don't know the definitive team numbers, but they are playing with a 3-man squad against the 2. They have the advantage in terms of HP. Lucas is on his knees right now. It's all on Bucky. And he's pressing up against the hill. Look at the fanned out nature of HQA. Lucas crawling up to try and get the res. And HQA popping smoke to cut off these sight lines. They have control of the circle. VM1 aren't in the newly formed one just yet. They will have to press up into this road and expose themselves to the firing line of this extremely dominant HQA lineup.
If you told me that VN1 would be one of the 2 remaining teams alive in the final few circles of this game, based off of what they were facing off against, I would have told you we were wrong. And well, HQA says, VN who? We're going to wipe them out of the game and pick up that chicken dinner. And look at the kill counts that they were able to amass, especially Kwang. 8 kills to his name. That's going to be, I believe, 16 kills in total for that squad. But VN1 with a nice 9 kills, second place. And then the Misfits showing up now in the top 3 placements with 9 kills. Huge nades coming up through that. I would love to see Zenith clip that because I know all of these players are recording on their mobile devices to get those highlights. Zenith, huge nades. Proud of you.
Yeah, able to get that. Well, I believe it was a triple kill ultimately, but there was a lot of pressure taken onto that team by that one grenade. I believe he actually threw out another one afterwards to get a couple of flushed off the back end of it. Doesn't detract from the performance he had. Racking up, I'm just going to double check off to the side here. I believe he got 7 kills there by himself. The kill lead was only beaten out by Kwang, who managed to get that 1 extra kill with the 8 total. That was our 3rd map of the night. We have one more map of our semi-finals. It's going to be Erangel coming on your screens after this break.
Hello and welcome back, PUBG Mobile esports fans, to the final day, the final game of the semifinals for the PUBG Mobile Club Open in the North American region. My name's Esquire, joined here by Trid. We just saw game number 3 played out. It was an action-packed game on Erangel. Let's take a look at some of the highlights and talk about what happened.
HQA walking away with this one ultimately in the end, just able to exert dominance over it. And I think the story of this map in particular was just the Kobe's and the Yeets coming in with these grenades, Esquire. So many frag kills coming out. You're just watching Revenants get demolished off the field. And here comes an ill-advised crash by Latinos Unidos.
The lights out dip in full effect right here, and Latinos Unidos taking casualty after casualty. One more nade comes in from lights out, and they're going to be finding Chacho on the opposite side, but before that, Unnamed certainly crosses their path. But this is the story. HQA fragging out left and right, and that member, to be exact, Quang, having the game of his life.
Pride will get knocked to his knees there, and you can see VM1 taking a few shots over at them and clearing out Method. Here's HQA, you can see they can handily deal with Pyro from Misfits, and VM1 were on life support at this point. HQA just needed to press forward and seal the deal. That's exactly what they did, taking away that third map win of the day.
And with one more game to be played, back to Erangel we go. Well, a lot is on the line here for some teams in particular. Trent, I think we should maybe take a look at the standings and see how things have set up over the course of the last 2 weeks of semifinal play.
To put it bluntly, anyone, if you're at Tempo Storm's line or below, consider yourself out at this point. Yes, there's some weird element where Latinos Unidos can, if they get first place with a 22 kill game, they can still scrape by. Very unlikely that's going to happen. So consider anyone below Tempo Storm, including them, out of competition. Blinded by Win, they're on 180. Let's go up on the page and you'll see the difference they have to catch in this one game alone as we scroll up to 9 to 16. 185 is gate kept. VN1 are beating Team Anarchy on a tiebreaker based on kills, so they are at no risk of dropping down into the bottom 8. It is Team Anarchy, who is not competing in this map, who now need to watch, pray, and hope that Blinded by Win do not accrue 5 points.
So let's take a look at the top 8 positions now, see how these leaders on the leaderboards have continued to develop. Certainly the point chase is still in effect. Wildcard will need a huge 55 point game to at least tie Space Station Gaming, and that is certainly a large task in front of them to do so. But Trid, I think the more important factor is, let's take a look at the head-to-head coming into this. It's going to be Team Anarchy versus Blinded by Win, and take this away. Team Anarchy is not playing tonight. We're just highlighting these two teams and essentially the effort that Blinded by Win needs to put forward here in the 4th and final game of the day to be able to say we're going to the regional finals for North America.
So the 5 points is true to a degree. Kill difference is the big determinant if it comes down to a break of points. So even if Blind by Win get 5 points but 0 kills, for example, Team Anarchy will still possess that 16th place spot. And if you want to understand the rules, the standings, or how we even got to this point, go to the website. It's clubopen.pubgmobile.com. It'll give you all the highlights, standings, even some stats now as well about how these players perform through this stage of the competition and the group stage that came before it. But enough about looking into the past. Let's look towards the future. We got a flight going over Erangel right now for the final game of the semifinals.
Here we are, plane path coming out of that northeastern corner of the map, just south of Kameshki, north of Lapoka, and taking a steep angle down towards Primorsk. That's where the plane will end its trajectory, and all is on the line for those teams that we highlighted, 2 teams in particular that need to have at least not massive games, but they do have to get some points out of this round to be able to say safely we are in the top 16 teams that'll be moving on to the regional finals in June for North America. Players already departing, VN1 heading up towards the north, wildcards surely going down towards Melted Power. And Trid, we might see some interesting things coming out here. We talked about it during the break that we might see some hot drops, we might see teams shifting off of their strategies that are secured in those top 16s to maybe have a little fun, do something that they weren't expecting of their squad here in this final game.
They could do, and if they really wanted to.
Why not? What's preventing you from doing that, Trid? You seemed like a skeptic.
No, I'm not. I wasn't actually being skeptic about what you were just saying there. I'm just saying about the potential risk that poses. Now, if you're Blinded by Win, you want a consistent game.
Not those. No, those teams are not going to do anything risky.
No. I'm not talking about them doing anything. I'm talking about other teams doing stuff to them. Everyone can look at the standings on the website right now. They can see how close Blinded by Win are to succeeding. If they wanted to just play spoiler when there's no risk to themselves, because the only team that can move right now are Blinded by Win and Team Anarchy, they may go ahead and take some unnecessary engagements just to play spoiler. But it's Mateus opening up with a flush onto Miski to kick things off.
Yeah, this is an interesting playing path. basically where we saw these teams drop as well. Looks like Pachinki is drawing 2 different teams. Latinos Unidos will be there amongst some of the members of Method, as well as some of the members of Unnamed. Unnamed, Pachinki is their city, and they continue to assert their dominance with Raven on the DP28 onto Revo. Will be flushed out of the game. Matias hanging out on the stairwell. DP28 versus DP28. Who will reign victorious in this evenly matched battle?
Nice pre-fire.
It's going to be Matias finding a headshot with the 7.62 rounds onto Raven, and here comes his help, Chacho, and him going to be holding on to the second story of this building and waiting for any other members of Unnamed to cross their paths.
But they are now a 2-man squad.
Is this the 50-point game that we're looking for Latinos and Unidos here? Is this the start of that game?
I mean, they were already playing with 2 members. I don't think it is.
Okay, fair enough.
I mean, all the best of luck to them, obviously, but I don't think it will be their game to play, unfortunately. But they've hot dropped onto Pachinki, which is usually unnamed city, and this may be one of those instances of being a little bit more experimental and potentially having some fun with this final round and looking for a guaranteed early conflict.
Sure, why not go out in a blaze of glory if you're going to be going out and you don't have this platform anymore until the second season of the PUBG Mobile Club Open happening later this year. Again, as Trid said, if you're curious as to when that will be happening, if your favorite team dropped out, head on over to the Club Open website. Check out the schedule. Check out all of the events that PUBG Mobile is planning in 2019. Blinded by Wind, here they are, Arcs, Woods, the rest of the crew looting up off of the ferry pier position. And they're going to have at least a little bit of a trek, about a 100 or 200 meters or so off to the east to find themselves secure in phase number 1.
Need to keep checking on Blinded by Wind. They are the team to watch this map because they're the only ones with any tangible stakes on the line in this matchup. So we need to be making sure that they've got a great chance of survival. They can finish in 10th place. That will give them 6 points, which will bypass the need to get any kills.
Trid, what you just said, survival, that's the key word here. They don't need the kills. You get a massive amount of points from placement. All they have to do is stay safe. If they start to see themselves amongst conflict, I wouldn't be surprised if you see the members of Blinded by Wind all go their separate ways. And sometimes, at least the strategy that this team could play in particular when they're going for placement, they could have done a 4-corner strat where all 4 members of their squad drop on different corners of the map and just try to snake their way in and stay alive. It'd be an insurance policy for their team. Obviously not doing that here, but shedding some light on other strategies that you might see over the course of the Club Open.
For now, it looks like they're going to play the same game they have all season, which has been significantly better today, all things account. We never considered Blinded by Wind a top team, and that's what kind of put them in the situation they're in now, where they're climbing to stay in. But we've had some great performances today. It'd be a real shame to have that momentum cut short by not qualifying for our regional finals, because who knows how far they can keep this ball moving and how far they can climb up the rankings when we have another set of competition for our regional finals. Like I said, I think it'd be an injustice if we didn't see them in those regional finals. So I'm rooting for them today. I want them to get that top 16. They've earned it.
Certainly a lot of players are rooting for them, but a few teams aren't. It's going to be Team Anarchy fans just praying and hoping that Blinded by Wind does not have that game that they need to. And again, it doesn't have to be a huge game here. Latinos Unidos Chacho going to continue to spot out the members of Unnamed inside of Pachinki. It was a 2v2. Now it's going to be a 2v1 in favor of the members of Latinos Unidos, but Blinded by Wind is making that rotation. All 4 essentially together as they pick up that 4th member on the roadside and continue on this rotation. Chacho getting a little bit of a loot infusion. But again, keep in mind, they got a big game ahead of them if they're trying to find themselves in the top 16. And they got to do a lot more than just this. 3 kills, though, is a nice start.
Where's that final unnamed member? I'm looking at our side map that we have, and I can't see where he's gone. He's not in Pachinki anymore, so he's bugged out. Here's Sin. He's in a vehicle. He's leaving as fast as he can. He's cutting his losses, playing for placement. He's running straight into the eyes of G6. He does not want to get sprayed down here whatsoever.
Sin saying, I'll be damned if I give Latinos Unidos that squad wipe. I'm heading in. I'm
not giving him the 22-kill game that they want.
The 22-kill first-place game that they need. Like, holy cow, that's quite the task that Latinos and Unidos have in front of them. But, hey, it's good to work towards something. At least it might be exciting for them off of this early game dominant start that they're having already. Revenants inside of Yasnaya Poyana. This is no surprise. You see them come here time and time again. But this time, as opposed to the last game, they don't have VN1 pushing up on their southern side. VN1 landed onto the base of Stauber just to the north.
We've done this before as well. And just back on Sin, actually. Let's have some fun, Sin. Go for as many vehicle kills as you can. You're playing solo right now. Your placement doesn't matter. You're guaranteed top 16. Seeding will not affect anything to do with the regional finals whatsoever. Have some fun. Go for some vehicular manslaughter. Ulysses, you can see him there in the distance going past Martin. Going to drive away and maybe keep himself alive. See how much that fuel in the car can take him.
Yeah, you know what? Be a speed racer. Just just bomb it all across the members of Wildcard as well. Wildcard, though, going to be popping out of the vehicle, trying to get some nice shots onto him. 2 connections, dropping him down to about 60 HP. A third comes in, dropping him down to 30 HP. But he's able to safely at least disengage off of this. A lot of line-of-sight blockage in between him and the members of Wildcard. And he continues on down to the southeastern corner. He's going to be holding onto the peninsula off to the east of that Milta coast.
And funnily enough, that is still rather central, based on where that circle has landed, over to that southeast region. So Misfits, they should be able to wrap over to Novo as well, seeing as Novo's not around. They wanted some extra loot. They have the luxury of time to go and explore that before moving on to the mainland. Does pose the risk of allowing more teams to set up a chokehold and gatekeep on the bridge that they'll have to pass through eventually. But who knows what you could find if you just bury your head into some more treasure.
It's interesting. I've been thinking about the mentality of Blinded by Win in this game. They have to completely forget about the performance over the last 4 weeks. They have to play this as if it was a one-game tournament. All is on the line for them because essentially it is. And they can't feel safe not knowing how many teams are in the lobby. Certainly they can see player count, but unless they're keeping very diligent track of that kill count in the feed and which teams are losing 4 members to absolute flushes and not just knocks, well, it's going to be kind of up in the air until they proceed into the far late game and can rest assured that they've made it into the top half of the placements. But here it is, Misfits coming off of that military island drop, Sosnovka Island rather, their area of choice. They're going to be facing off against some resistance. It's none other than Method hiding and waiting at the gas station, trying to prevent them from an easy cross across the bridge.
Now, Method were one of the teams in the danger zone today. They've done enough work with their placement, especially winning one of the maps on Miramar earlier today, has enabled them to get into a position where they are safe from falling out of that zone. So they will be able to rest pretty, knowing that even if this engagement goes south against Misfits, they'll still be seeing each other in the regional final in the future.
They're getting third party, though. It's going to be Quang from HQA, who had an insane game in game number 3 of the day, putting in some damage onto that squad.
Convoy. There's 4 vehicles riding straight at them. That's a terrifying sight.
They're going to crash.
They're going gung-ho into this gas station.
There's no reason not to. Pride is on the line here, Trid.
They're going to look underneath have a quick check underneath, going for the spray down. Method, they don't care about Pride. They're just being cowardly. They're mounting up and leaving. They don't want any of this. The Ever Fury's cut short. It's Pyra getting the knock. Louisville will deal with 7 at the moment. Pyra to the side. We'll finish off with that flush. You've got Clay sitting in there, rushing through the door. It's Xenoff with the spray down. He's going to get that flush as well. Method, still alive, carried purely by a couple of their members who managed to escape earlier in the engagement.
This is exactly the type of play that I like to see out of the Misfits. They slipped
There's
in their
Pride.
performance over the last few days.
You were speaking of Pride, and he's the only one that escaped.
Yeah, there he is. Unfortunate to see. But again, with Misfits, they slipped a lot in their performance over the last few weeks, but now, at least in the final game of the semifinals, they are secured and going to the regional finals.
Oh, no.
They are reminding every team here in this lobby and every team that's watching just who they are. Next shift going to be coming out, phase 2, shifting over a little bit north off of Mini Milta Power.
We need to have a look at Blinded by Win right now. They're taking an engagement with Ignite Gold over to the west. You see the gunfire being traded. Need to make sure that they're staying alive and keeping their heads down. We can see Manny taking a few hits, but he's not out of it yet. Shots still coming in towards them. He should be able to get away with this one. I think it was Ace taking the engagement. There were multiple squads in the area. The further on this northeast trajectory they are heading to, they may end up running into the Ignite Gold squad. You can see them in front of them there in convoy. They should keep their distance, try and disengage off of this one.
They do have the insurance policy. One other member of this Blinded by Win squad trailing behind, and he's going to be actually behind a few of the members of Ignite Gold. Well, 1 to be exact. Both of these squads have lingerers trying to catch up to the other 3 members of their squad. But again, probably the toughest rotation that Blinded by Win could be faced off against, a west to east transition with so many teams favoring the western and central sides of this Erangel map. Well, it's going to be a little bit congested, as we're already starting to see here in phase number 2. And this is what I like to see. Blinded by Win now inside of phase number 2, but pulling up to the north, trying to avoid those rotation paths from Ignite Gold that they had previously seen a few seconds ago.
They keep moving on this trajectory. If they're not too careful, they may run into Lights Out. And you don't want to be running into a team like that. Ulysses, we're going to knock onto Pyra, finish off with the flush as well, so shoot to win. Coming up big there already, gaining himself another kill as they take an engagement with Misfits.
And some of the members of Misfits have now been caught out on the coastal line. I mean, this is a wide open beach. It's not necessarily the place that you want to go, but neither is right through Milta, so it's the better of 2 evils, essentially, that Misfits was forced into taking there, as Perkasas, Uneven, and Zenith pull into this compound. Will be holding on, but Rafa pushes out into the wide open. A little bit of deflate for him to work off of. That's why Misfits haven't popped off and really even seen him just yet, but sure enough, Martine and Lopez Lopez will be calling them back, saying, Rafa, not yet. Pull back. Let's get some long-range shots.
Rafa the Rafa looking to get himself into a safer position as Uneven. Keeping an eye on the distance. Can see the bullet trails and going to return fire and apply some pressure to back it off. They are playing with 3 members right now because Pyro did get flushed out quite early into that engagement. As most of the teams have made it into this next circle, apart from the likes of Polo Ace Esports and HQA. This is Blinded by Win, taking control of a compound to bunker down a little bit longer, but that next phase shift should force them out, as Yefe getting flushed out by Lights Out over to the west of the new circle.
HQA continues to take casualties here as Xiphon pulls up to at least this garage building just off to the east of the road north of Milta. It's a good position to play on when you have all of your teammates there, and Michael is certainly trying to pull that into effect as he crashes into the compound, taking a lot of shots for the members of the Pittsburgh Knights as well as Wildcard off to the east. So not necessarily the position they want to be in, but for now it will be okay. Perkasas, though, continues to spot out Martin, who wraps around the building. He's trying to get crafty lines of sight over from the west, and unfortunately just continues to get caught out. And Misfits, well, they're a little bit upset that they lost one of their members to that engagement.
They took offense to that one, so they're trying to return fire onto this one. Kyuang just about to enter into the newly formed safe area, but then when you look at the play area, it's moving even further over towards Milta Power. And Unnamed Sin, who got there nice and early to try and avoid the conflict, is still knuckled down in that center point. A lot of these teams are going to have to force their way through the west, though, because they're not coming in from the coast instead.
Pittsburgh Knights taking casualties right now. You saw Wi-Fi drop down to the members of Polar Ace Esports, but shots quickly returned back by Jagger and the rest of the squad, and they're able to capitalize on this. 3 knocks, I believe just JVP will be alive for Polar Ace Esports, who's currently sitting in 24th position. So again, not a really impactful engagement right here for either of these teams. Knights are secured in the top 16, and Polar Ace Esports will not be joining us in the regional finals.
But if Polar Ace Esports do get 1 point, they will not finish last. They will take 23rd place instead. So silver linings, Esquire, silver linings.
Silver linings. There's probably a saying that counters the silver linings, but I don't know what it is. Jagger, though, with a nice nade follows up, going to be taking out Dilly once again. Another knock on the Polar Ace Esports, and they still have... Well, 1 member trying to retreat off of this. JVP has been flushed out, and well, out they go. Polar Ace Esports in 16th position. This is good for the members of Blinded by Win. They don't know that the squad was eliminated unless they track the kill feed.
Okay, so as long as Polar Ace Esports got at least 1 kill before they got eliminated, they will finish in 23rd, not 24th, because they have a kill advantage over Shoot to Win in that 23rd place. Actually, hang on a minute. Shoot to Win can still rack up points unless they've been removed as well. They could actually still increase that gap.
There's a golf clap going out for the members of Polar Ace Esports right now.
A polite clap. You tried. Blinded by Win going to hunker down in the edge. They're playing so scared right now, and that's exactly how they need to. They're playing the edge as far away from the conflict in that northern side as they can, playing out for that placement.
I want to talk about that Blinded by Win rotation. They made the smartest move that they could possibly take, and I think it's by virtue of the information that they've gotten over the last few days of Erangel play. They saw this shift, and by virtue of how many teams don't land in the northern side of Erangel, well, they could almost safely assume that the north would be their easiest transition. They saw how many teams were going from west to east and likely still riding that edge. Like we know as spectators, we've got the benefit of that map, but certainly they do not. But a smart decision that could pay off huge for them, because the implications of dropping out in the bottom 8 and being able to continue on trade could be the lion's share of $2.5 million for some of these squads.
Absolutely. Imagine the gameplay they could have. They completely turn it around in the regional finals, but that whole dream can be cut short. They just don't qualify. Wildcard stacking up the vehicles inside of this house just over to the north of Milta. Kyuang's charging up a grenade. He's in the blue right now, taking a fight with Chacho. So this is a time limit on this engagement as he's cooking up a grenade. He's got 1 more in the inventory after this one goes out. Should be in a good spot, but he's not landing him onto Chacho, so this seems like a pointless endeavor, if I'm honest with you.
This is just a battle of pride right here. I mean, HQA Kwang, he's happy with his performance here tonight. He's been dominant in terms of his Erangel gameplay, but we do see another shift coming out. It's going to be focused directly on top of the members of Revenants, and Blinded by Win has to continue to make that rotation. 15 teams still alive. They have not done enough yet to secure themselves in that top 16 positions, but they will have an easy entryway. They're going to be crossing along the lumberyard on the eastern side, and they're going to be able to hold onto the hill. And Trid, this is probably one of the best positions that Blinded by Win could hope for inside of this phase.
It's all coming up them right now, and they need to maintain it. Chacho did win the world's most pointless engagement by killing off Kyuang in the blue. The question is, will Chacho make it into the circle to tell his comrades? Because he now has to worry about the resources he spent and the distance he has to travel into that newly formed circle. VN1 have pinned down Blinded by Win. So we talk about how this is a great position for them. Well, they're kind of locked into it now because their vehicles have been trashed by VN1.
I think it's just one member of VN1 too. It's Rand that has the line of sight. The other members of VN1 are off to the east a little bit down the hillside. And while Rand is going to be cutting off, or at least trying to move a little bit further inland inside of this circle to cut off any push from the north down to the south. They don't know that this is Blinded by Win, but this could spell disaster if they don't play this properly. And again, all eyes have to be on the squad.
I think Chacho is actually going to make it in now. Disappointingly enough, he will make it into Malta. He's got a vehicle. Lucas peeling off away from this one, so they will leave Blinded by Win to their own devices for now.
The brow gets wiped.
Yes, Blinded by Win can breathe another day, or another phase, but they are awfully close to Pittsburgh Knights, and we can see them trading gunfire on our second screen right now. Parker will get knocked down by Monarch, so it's Pittsburgh Knights. They could play spoiler right now, and they know it's Blinded by Win. If they're feeling really sadistic, they can flush out Parker and start putting Blinded by Win on the back foot.
Why not? You have seen pretty good gains here by Blinded by Win on the day. If you could stop at least a team that is kind of unpredictable like that, who can come out with these huge victories throughout at least the first 3 games of the day, well, why not? It's certainly a good play. You don't want to be seeing them in that 16-team lobby in the regional finals, but for right now, the Lumberyard is the saving grace for the members of Blinded by Win. Arcs and Woods behind the yellow shack, and one other. It is going to be Manny off to the positioning down on the Harry Potter just to the south.
This is horrible for Blinded by Win. If I'm them now, I'm sending one person away as an insurance policy and trying to get out while the others suppress. If Pittsburgh Knights go aggressive and commit to this one, it should just spell disaster for them and force them out of the top 16 and into the area of uncertainty until the full season comes around.
I'm curious where this next shift is going to be going. If it shifts down to the south, well, Blinded by Win and Pittsburgh Knights will both have to traverse down a wide open hill to get inside of the circle. And once they get to the base of that hill, well, it's wide open fields as well with no compounds in sight for them to hold on to. It could spell disaster for these teams. And just a few minutes' time, when that blue zone starts to shrink in on this phase, it's not going to be long before these members have to at least worry about that transition coming up.
But it is a game of time right now. Blinded by Win, if they can just, even if they lose the Pittsburgh Knights, if they can just outlast 4 more squads and go out in 10th place, then they will get the required amount of points anyway. So as long as they can outlast this, they can just play. Yeah, it's a cowardly game, but ultimately it's the game you have to play right now in order to guarantee yourself a further progression in this tournament. Elsewhere on the map, Sin's still playing the border right now, so the circle's moved away from that central position he once possessed. A couple of engagements coming out from Shoot to Win, taking some shots over the Milta area.
There it is.
New circle forming. This is pretty good for Blinded by Win. Not much mobility needs to be taken, but they still have Monarch and the rest of the Pittsburgh Knights gatekeeping their progress. They are, but they just don't have very far to go to get in and continue their safety.
Pretty good. This is the best circle that Blinded by Win could have hoped for. This
absolutely.
Wide open hill, they're not going to have to traverse down. But I want to go back to what you said, Trid. I mean,
Fast
yes,
rotation.
It
That's
is
brilliant.
This is going to be a story of survival for this squad, but keep in mind, this is PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. It is a game of survival. Kills certainly help you along the way, and you might need to get some kills to find yourself in that first place position. But it's kind of something that gets lost a lot. I mean, some teams might say, or you might say, the spectators of the esport might say, well, they're playing pretty passive. We want to see some action come out of them. They're playing exactly the way that they need to here in the 4th and final game of the semifinals to try to rack up the points. But with 14 teams still remaining, they are not there yet. And while the action continues to erupt as our teams from Milta try to make their way up north to find a safe spot inside of this circle. Pittsburgh Knights' attention has been completely diverted from the members of Blinded by Win. They're looking at every team coming up from the south.
As they should do. They're playing for the victory rather than the points, and they're getting themselves in a favorable position. Now Wildcard have moved into their sights, using the vehicles as mobile cover. And even going to get a nice knock onto Sid. Charger's taking on Pride. As Wi-Fi will continue to spray into this smoke cloud and mesh of vehicles, unable to find any connections against Wildcard.
The action is just exploding all around.
They're all coming
map.
into the south. There's so many squads alive.
And there's not really any territory that provides you with good cover. Wildcard is fortunate enough to have the vehicles on the side of the mountain that's providing the vehicular cover for them, but how much can it protect them with so many shots coming from so many different angles? And will they continue to come out? Misfits going to be taking casualties. Shoot to Win going to be spotting out the members of Silent Killers.
One more team, and they've done it. That's it. We've now got Blinded by Win confirmed in that top 16 for the regional finals. The rest of this game can play out, and all the positions are locked in. We know our top 16 teams now. It's all about who can get the pride on the line.
But you know what the funny thing is? Blinded by Win has no idea. They don't know how many teams are left. They just see 28 players. You have to assume that there are going to be some snakes. But fortunately, yes, for them, they have made it. But how would they continue to play off this? You have to play passively. At this stage in the game with 28 players alive, anything that you can push is going to be points on points on points as Lights Out tries to maneuver at least up this hill among the Deadwood, throwing out as many smokes as possible. And as you can see, VN1 stacked into the Harry Potter, 3 up top, 1 below. Rand going to be trying to spot out anyone approaching from the hillside.
They're sharing a similar territory to what Pittsburgh Knights are doing, albeit across the way. They got Lights Out suppressed in the smoke cloud, Revenants in the distance, grenades being thrown out, but they're not landing inside the building itself, so should be fine. But that's another smoke to obscure the vision and really take away a lot of the value of this position. Yes, you're fortified, but now you can't exert your pressure outwards from the safety of this position.
Exactly what you needed to do for the members of Lights Out right here, who have their eyes on a victory in the final game. I mean, a lot of pride can be staked in saying we walked away from the semifinals with the final chicken dinner. That was possible to obtain. But now the next shift comes out. It's going to be a far northwestern hard shift. Blinded by Wind just has to wrap around the northern side of the circle and worry about the wild card off to the west. Pittsburgh Knights down to the south, but a lot of action, a lot of commotion will be drawing the attention of these teams down to the southeast, where VN1 continues to frag out onto the members of Lights Out. But here it is, G6. Granada Gaming going to be slamming into the members of Blinded by Wind, but Woods, he's going to be picking up a knock. 2 knocks now as Yayo goes down. If they can secure these flushes as well, Trid, they're going to feel even more confident going into the late game.
Absolutely, and Arx is going to do just that now, as Key will also deal with outside of 9K in this Lights Out VN1 engagement. Gonna go for the res onto Lucifer, keep him in. Seagut there, but then there's Key and drop down and spray as well. Too many members of Seagut to deal with. It's all on that final member. He was unable to find it. Somehow, none of the members of VN1 got flushed, so Key will make a full recovery.
Pretty much like the best case scenario, your teammates end up going down. That's going to be huge for VN1, at least as far as placement and securing any type of top position in this game will go. But Revenants, they got to make the trek. Peralta going to be bleeding out on the hillside. Latinos Unidos, Matias still going to be holding on to that western position. And Tanker makes the long run through smoke. He's able to make it, at least masking his cover, a little bit of concealment rather, providing him with much safety. But everyone is now starting to reposition. I believe Blinded by Wind is taking casualties. Wood's going to be going down to Wi-Fi's Mini 14. Jagger securing the kill onto Manny as well. So Blinded by Wind, yes, they're falling apart, but at the right time. At least the best time that they could have.
Well, the time that won't cost them anything for doing so. But Ran on this motorcycle, Tank in blue, wants to get in as fast as possible, very exposed, but he's able to find a way in here because he has a lot of terrain to play around. Heading up towards Woods and this crate, but there's the spray down from Pittsburgh Knights. He's been spotted out, and there's also a little bit of crossfire coming in from Arx, who steals away that kill.
6 teams remaining, 13 players alive as we approach the 25-minute mark of the final game of the semifinals for the PUBG Mobile Club Open. Sure enough, we have decided which 16 teams will be moving on, but we'll have to get confirmation from that on the leaderboards before we end the evening here in about 10 minutes' time. But it's not over yet. Arx is still making a trek for trying to get a top game finish here. The best you can do, they reach the threshold, but continuing on, VN1 will be swarming around the southern side of this. From the blue zone, it's going to be Tanker. He's able to get the knock on the Quee. You're not going to be able to save him. Bucky, you got to pull off. The blue zone is too deadly at this stage of the game. And up the hill he goes. The solo player now left for VN1 to try to combat against the likes of Silent Killer's Wildcard, Pittsburgh Knights, and Blinded by Wind.
He might actually be able to save Bucky here. No, he might be able to save Key if it wasn't for that fire coming in. If Key can just keep up the pace, he might be able to get in past the blue. There's a lot of smoke coverage to get the res in, and Bucky may actually get away with this one, Esquire.
11th hour res coming in on Quee. It's going to be huge for VN1, at least staying up as 2 alive, but they have to worry about the 4-man squad of Wildcard and the 3-man squad of Pittsburgh Knights. Those are where the numbers lie in the final 5 teams remaining here in phase number 6 of the game. Quee going to be immediately knocked once again. Bucky not going to be able to come back and pick his teammate up, and he's going to be now left as a true solo player, trying to hide behind a buggy right in front of the members of the Pittsburgh Knights.
Only 5 squads remain. Only one of them's complete, and this wildcard up on this ridge behind the vehicles. The Harry Potter still being occupied by 3 members of the Pittsburgh Knights, as Bucky has been spotted out, and the fire and the pressure is coming in from Zeus. Got a couple of connections, but no knock yet. Arx is on his last life, but he's done enough. Blinded by Wind have done enough this game. They can go to sleep, close their eyes, and sleep pretty content with their performance. There's a reposition coming in from Pittsburgh Knights. They're driving out into the line of Bucky, and Arx is going to get sprayed out onto Wi-Fi. Arx will go down to the play zone, unfortunately, removing him. Bucky is going to get that flush onto Wi-Fi as well. This just opens the game up for Wildcard to take.
Certainly does. Knight's going to be adjusting. They've got some definitely to work with the mobile cover as well, but the DP-28 continues to spew 7.62 rounds down the hill to the south.
Raz?
In the direction of the Knights. Raz, though, yes, Silent Killer is going to be at least the solo snake threat on the hillside. He has been spotted out. The direction is certainly known rather by Zeus. but he can't find the ultimate tags. One more tap is all that's needed to take Silent Killers out of this game, and Rain is trying to get that information to feed it over to his remaining members of the squad, 3 to be exact, up the hill.
Just a 4v1 against Bucky. You've guaranteed it, Wildcard. There's no way you lose this one. Tell you what, get your fists out. Go for it. Start punching him instead. You get this Rain up and you just go for it right now because, like I said, it's inconsequential. Yes, you get the pride of having the first place finish. It's a 4v1. Bucky's behind that crate. You have a rough idea because you know exactly where he was moving from initially, but it's all about how they want to do it. They're going to play it safe. I would not blame them for doing so if they want to get that first place position.
You did not just tell these players to have a fist fight, Trid. Unbelievable. Bucky, though, behind the crate. This is the saving grace for him. The blue zone going to be taken away.
Deny.
He's cooking the grenade. He's going to be denying it. It has absolutely no impact on this game. And out with a bang, Bucky will be going a 4th game victory going the way of Wildcard Gaming. That's going to be huge for them. They had fairly good consistency throughout the day. 4 kills to their name. But the first place, and that's going to be pride on the line, saying, we'll see you guys in the regional finals, or wildcard.
Wildcard, going to be that first place victory. Blinded by win. This map was all about their performance, and they did enough. Top 5 finish guarantees them the points they need to get into that top 16, and not even by a fraction as well. I think they would have got themselves like a 14th or 13th place finish.
Come on,
depending
leave
on
some mystery to this, Trid. Let's see the leaderboards here in a few minutes.
I'm just speculating, man. I'm just speculating, but we already knew.
Yeah, we're speculating.
We're speculating. We already knew that they've made it, though. We set the stakes well enough for you to understand that they would have made it into that top 16. It does mean we're saying goodbye to Team Anarchy, and we'll get a confirmation of that when the standings come up, which are ready for you right now. So let's get those on your screen right now. Bottom 8, these are the teams we are saying goodbye to. We were correct, Team Anarchy have dropped into 17th place, so we'll salute all 8 of these teams and welcome them back in the full season, assuming they can get back in.
The biggest shifts that I'm seeing as far as big organizations go, Method working their way out of the bottom 8 and Tempo Storm dropping into the bottom 8. It's going to be huge for those teams. Expect to maybe see a few adjustments before Season 2 kicks up later this year. But for the 16 that didn't make it, all here on your screen. If you're fans of one of these 16 teams or multiple of these 16 teams, spam it in chat. Give them some of your energy. Congratulate them on their performance, not just here in the semifinals, but also throughout the group stages. It was no easy task. It was a marathon to get here, but it's not over yet. We've got the regional finals coming up in a few weeks where these teams are going to have much higher level of competition inside of that lobby, Trid.
More refined. They're going to be familiar with each other. They've all played each other multiple times now in different combinations and on different maps, so a lot of familiarity to play with. We're going to have a bit of downtime as well to review footage, review strategies, start tweaking things and refining it all. So that's the word I want to use to put it in your lexicon. Refined gameplay for our regional finals when they come around. And of course, that is the conclusion of our semi-finals. I'm going to send you over to the website once more, clubopen.pubg.com, and you can catch up on how the journey's gone so far. And you've got plenty of time to go over and watch some footage that may exist. Go over to the YouTube channel as well. But for myself and Esquire, thank you so much for joining us on this journey through PUBG Mobile Esports action. We're going to conclude our semi-finals, and hopefully we'll see you for the regionals.